elimination. You know, naanad na kita sa multiple choice, but actually there is an effective way on how to answer and how to choose answer sa multiple choice. Kita daan once nga mabasa ang question, hari do pwede na ni siya, duga relate siya. Amo na din piliun ta. Then why na wala na tamay, wala ta na ginapanumduman ano gid ang dapat naton pilion. 'Di ba? Kay feeling mo duga connect lang man siya pero no, you need to really defend on each item. Amo na kami nga teachers ga katingala kami sa inyo nga anda sigasig kamo na tapos. Did you really analyze each question and each answer? Kay dapat amo na, why is this the answer or why is this not the answer? Amo na iya ka actually dapat ikaw mag-critic sa each choices nga na guwa dira sa inyo. You know, and as you prepare for your review, as you study, mas i-apply nyo bala ni sa inyo absay kag sa inyo nga sa assessment. You try to study every day. Hindi kita pwede ka cram nga sa ano na lang ko 2 months before na lang ko sa exam. No. Diba we've learned that sa learning. Hindi na kaya i-absorb sang brain naton at that time span unless grabe ka gifted. No? Pero what the results nga na-show sa inyo backboard, definitely hindi siya effective sa inyo tanan. You try to aim to learn something new every day. So read. You read and you read your books. You know, you read aloud, you take down notes, you memorize and understand. Then again, without notes naman, you practice discussing it. And the most effective way kung na-absorb na siya, you teach it to others. Istorya si mama mo. Amo ning ginahambal sa social learning theory, amo ning ginahambal sa psychoanalytic theory. Dira mo mabalaan, dira mo matest. Yes, I absorb what I have studied. You know, and as you take the exam, amo nahambal na mo sa mga teachers ninyo, ang time limit kag ang able to go back to the previous items, amo na yang nakapapasar sa amon. Because you are able to go back and reflect, hala, amo gid man ni dapat ang answer or sabiin gid man di ayhan ang dapat nga answer. So you make use of your time. Amo na nga may 3 hours. Wala na diya pa sigay nga kung pauna-una ka may reward ka, no. You make use of your time. And you know, as you prepare for the examinations, subong man or sa future when you really take the board exam, I want you to have that mindset na what you will be doing every day, hindi mo siya pag-i-regret sa time na nagkuha ka na sa exam kag nagkuha na ang result. You know, I am not that excellent student when I was in college. Hindi ko yung sila nga nag-compete and everything. Ako yung tipo the average and lacks pa ya. Wala, iti ko yung sila nga just studious type. Pero by the grace of God and balaan ko, feeling ko sa ko, gimpapasar ko ni Lord, kay balaan ko ang kapisan ko mag-review ka sa ara. Because every day I remind myself, I don't want to go back to this day where nagtinamad ko, naghambal ko sa self ko nga karon lang ko matuon kay wala pa ko gana. Inang pa-mood type ba? Again, it's really a matter of self-discipline and commitment, guys. If you want to be involved in this profession, syempre you need to take part again. So hopefully, ang habakubla sa inyo, mas nakilala nyo ang inyo self for this mock board. Ano ka mo magkuha exam? Hindi pa man graded, no. I hope nga mas nakilala ninyo nga, mas mapabetter ninyo ang inyong study habits, ang inyong preparation for the pre-board or the board exam again. So always remember that the Lord will grant the desires of your heart kung para na sa kamaayuhan mo. Pero in the first place, wala mo ginhatag best mo, nagsettle ka lang yabi kung sa anoda, you will also reap that. So muna wala man kamo balasolon in case gid man ka amo tong inyo score because amo na it it shows ano man ang inyo nga effort. Aim for a no regret na feeling after the examination. Ang makambal ka man mas kinubo ka pero gintry mo imo best to study ang pinaka grabe gid nga preparation to study, then really wala ka i-regret. Makambal ka lang nga ang mockboard gintagaan niya gid ko chance nga mag-improve pa gid. So you try to reflect sang inyo nga own amo na yung main goal ko gid as we have this rationalization. Nga try to recall nga sang na-encounter nyo ni nga items ano nga agin answer ko ni nga wala ko ni gin answer. Kay para mas ma-learn ninyo kung paano ang effective learning para sa inyo. Kay again, lain-lain kita yung means eh. Ako yadaan niya, hindi ko nakasaw sa mga rush na kada 2 months lang no. I really have to prepare ahead of time. Maski mabasa lang ko liwat-liwat. Amo na ang concepts ng overlearning. Later we will talk about that sa IO. Di na iya sila nga ma-board ka. Pero that definitely the retention of that you could apply the concept more effectively na. So, last no, there will be times na kapoy-kapoy na gid na. Katalaka na gid. Grabe ang doubt. Pause. You rest. But you should never give up. Ari na kamo, mag-graduate na kamo, kag kamo na ang next na makwa sang board. Always remember to go back to your why. WHY. The reason why you are doing this or why are you into this. And everything will be worth it gid kung ara na kamo sa time nga may RPM or may sugpo na inyong ngalan. Hindi iya because you have a title. But the title that ang sugpon sa name you signifies or shows your sacrifices, your hard work as you reach for that goal. So muna ang pinaka-importante, you always go back to your why. Always go back to the reason nga aari ka mo diri subong. Ako ang isa ko na kung grabe gina-atake na ako sa imposter syndrome. Kung nablapit mo hindi na kuya ayoko na talaga ayoko na. May ginahimo ko na nga sa Pinterest na bala di ba mahilig ka na magbasa mga quotes. Ginahimuan ko na album nga kung grabe nagid ko ka down. Ginapangbasa ko na ang mga quotes where I could lift up myself and motivate myself. You reach out to your friends and family. Dako gina nga matter. So you try as we start, the items, you try to reflect. Kamusta na encounter nyo ni nga nga items. Ano nga agin answeran ko ni kay para lang may answer ko? No. Hopefully sa mock boards ang next 2 subjects naton mas magiging intentional. I want to really emphasize that term. You are answering that item because ang intention mo in choosing that answer is because na-analyze mo maayo. Gintry mong best mo, ang intentions mo magwa ang imo tinun-an sa imong exam. O may ara gina times nga feeling mo wala nagwa ang items. Pero basi wala ka lang gid man niya basa. Actually, there are items nga harap-harapan na ang answer, harap-harapan na nga hindi siya ang answer, pero nga aamo ng inyo nga answer. Okay? So, let's start. So, if I'm still audible, basi balawa ay na-run out ako. Can you hear me? Can you click raise hand? Kung clear pa ko. Okay, very good. Sige. I'll start with my own items. Ha, kay, my gosh, ako laptop. Sige lang, ano mo siya ga-cooperate. Sige, let's start. Okay. So, we cannot review everything already kay doon nag-lecture lang kita na kung mag-amo naman na liwat, di ba? So, as you flash the items, I want you to reflect nga sa diin ako nagkulang tuon. sa diin ako nagkulang pag-intindi sa concept nga asala ang akon nga answer. So, amo pa gini, when sa questions, no, by showing, pagbasa nyo sa question, paghambal pa lang sa triadic reciprocal causation, dapat, balaan nyo na iya, na-memorize na expected na nga, si Banduran ni. Amo na, dapat pag-flash para once mga bal nga under ni kay Bandura, mas ma-recall ninyo ano pang concepts under kay Bandura. So, which factor in the triadic reciprocal causation is usually the strongest contributor? It's the cognition. Behaviorist na iya kung environment, kung reinforcement. Kaya di ba ang stand gid sang concepts ng theory ni Bandura, we could change the decisions that we make because of the processes that kaka-involve sa aton along the way. Hindi nga kung ano lang yung ginapakita sa aton environment, ma-respond lang kita da. But we could process it naman kanihambal nga because we have the capacity for memory, for anticipation, for planning. We could use these cognitive capacities and restructure our environment as well. So sa stand sang theory ni Bandura, specifically with the triadic reciprocal causation, it's the cognition. So again, it goes back to what? Read your books and study and analyze it again. So di ba gagwa? Ari lang ni bala sa libro. Actually, ginagakapi ko lang yung mga sentences nga naga-flash kinhalin sa book. So kung wala nyo na na-encounter, hindi na yung pwede maghambal nga wala na discuss, no. Nakulangan ng ganyan sa study. Next, when an individual has love, biophilia, positive freedom, di ba kay sino na gani na yung theory? Dapat balaan nyo na, kay Eric Fromm na. Amo nang importante, basic lang na iya nga concepts, kag makonect nyo siya kung sino nga theorist, boom. Dako na iya nga. Dako na nga, nga points kumbaga because amo ni later bala we could eliminate amo nang term ko bala ang gina-emphasize ko gin as you read the question and the answers makahambal ka nga sa behavior ya kay Skinner, environment Skinner man ni behaviorist as well as reinforcement, so hindi ni siya yung concept ni Bandura, so you eliminate the items nga hindi siya nagabalik sa question. As well as self-actualization. Self-actualization kasi una siya ya. So definitely kay from ni gabalik ang question. So i-X mo ni sa self-actualization. But next mo self-realization kasi una siya ya. Transcendence. Transcendence iya man na ni from. So mapili ikaw abi between the two, syndrome of growth and transcendence lang. So you are what? You are limiting the answers. Amo na tani ang ginobra nato during examination. Hindi nga, kay do familiar siya nga, ay do ka positive, do ka nami na attain niya. Sige, self-actualization na dayon na. Di ba? Tawan nyo, 37% more respondents answer that. Again, go back to your books and read your books. So, safeguarding tendencies. These are employed in order to add learning, protect oneself from disgrace. Kaya kinalain niya with reducing tension and anxiety. Mostly, it's how to protect our self-esteem na hindi kita mahuyan. Ginadabala ginadiscuss sa safeguarding tendencies. It's to protect our self from public disgrace. And also with underdeveloped social interest, I could share, I'm not sure lang kung I'll ask the other teachers later kung i-post man nila ang sa ila. Pero I've included the items na maka-emphasize kin bala sang correct answers. Pero actually bala guys, ari lang gid niya sa libro. Hindi man pwede nga hungito namon sa inyo tanan, di ba? So, they live in their own private world. Kaya the fact kay underdevelop ang ilang social interest. So, next, Ari, medyo gamay siya ha. So, diin nga mga statements diri ang true about Alport, diba? Personal dispositions are general characteristics nga a 1 and 2 ang sala because ini ang 1 traits niya. And ini cardinal disposition, central disposition ang tawag diri. So, muna, this is just definitions. Kung wala nato na familiarize, na intindihan ng definitions, hindi tagid ni ansiran sang tsakto. So, you really need to go back items, basa, pagbasa sang concepts, intindihon ka, i-apply. So, clear gidari nga 5 to 10, di ba kung 5 to 10, automatic, gina siya, central disposition. So, 3 and 4, ang tsakto nga, statements diri sa aton. So next, which among the following is true? So these are the concepts of from. Kagin-emphasize ko, nadumduman ko sa akon nga lecture sa inyo sa review, no? So, sadism is the more socially harmful, sa masochism. Kasi syempre sila ang kapanakit. And ari ha, imagine mo, letter B, sadism and masochism are mechanisms of escape according to Sullivan. 20 respondents answered. Si Sullivan may mechanisms of escape, palihog lang. Amo na nga, tunda praktison. Mapaghambal character orientations, maghambal kita mechanisms of escape, neurotic needs, balaan naton kung sino na ang mga theorist. Kay, ginahampangan lang ko muna sa mga answers dira para mas ma-eliminate naton ang items or ang choices nga hindi sakto sa aton. So definitely hindi man none of the above. Kaya ang mechanisms of escape, ara na siya, naghalin na siya sa burden of freedom, ang concept ni from after being separated from our natural instincts na balangan na separate kita sa humans and animals. Amo na nakadevelop kita sa a human dilemma or the basic anxiety that leads to mechanisms of escape. So, this is often manifest choosing partners who are older than himself. Still, this is Fromm's theory. Kung more ang nag-answer sa neurotic need for a powerful partner, iyan ni Hornay. And this focuses more on, nag-choose siya sa need for a powerful partner, it's because lacking siya self-confidence. And it's not emphasized in the question nga, it lacks, the person lacks self-confidence, diba? So, hindi siya pwede magiging need for submission, symbiotic relationship happening na, so definitely incestuous symbiosis or what we call the mother fixation. Okay, because this question is really referred to a man or a lalaki. So that is how you should analyze each question, guys. Hindi na nga pag-abasa older siya, hindi sila parehas ka edad. Siguro mas need niya isang powerful partner. No. Dapat naintindihan nyo anay ang concept sa need for a powerful partner kag other answers as well. So, Ari, which of the following statement is true about the existential concept ni Rolyo May, di ba? So, the structure that gives meaning to the experience is what we call intentionality, not will. Kung familiar kita, this is just definitions, guys. Intentionality is the capacity to organize. This is what we call will. Ontological guilt refers to umwelt and mitwelt but not eigenwelt. No. 3 niya, 3 na iya ang belonged sa aton nga ontological guilt. 3 modes of being ni sila yai. So the answer is really care is the source of both love and will. Kina-discuss na tanan na maayo. Nga ang source gid nagsugod gid ang love and will is because sa care. So I have the explanations here. Pag-ara na sa inyo nga book again. So please read through that. So Kristen is an existentialist who strongly criticizes other perspectives. Kaya again, nga at trace theories and their classification of people into types because existentialists do not like classifying people. It's like putting people into boxes, di ba? Mo ng perspective sa ating mga existentialists. Ang standaan nila, it's people are ever changing. So sa A, humanist and their emphasis on choice. So these are something that gonna share na sa I'll try to ask your other teachers later. I could share mine, wala man kaso. So we will try to ask your other teachers later kay para mas. Pero you could amo naman once nga i-post namon basi mag salig naman kamo sa amo ni. But you use kay dali lang sir kay gina-read ko ang ang notes bala mo nang hindi ko siya ma full screen. You try to analyze kung paano gina-answer ang each question and kung paano gina-analyze ang each item. Okay, para mas mabalaan nyo. Okay, definitely we will be changing the items man sa inyo pre-board. Hindi na niya magwa ang nagwa sa sini. So you cannot study the questions again. You really need to study on your own and answer uh, different questions. So try to learn how to answer and analyze each question. Amo nang purpose ng rationalization. Not familiarize the answers. Okay, so let's go back. Kaya ang akong nga laptop naghingalo na. Sorry. A follower of social cognitive learning theory would say that the following except for so syempre these are the concepts nga ginastand gid sa aton social cognitive learning theory. And letter D, this amuning stands ang mga behaviorist lang naton. So please review your concepts other theories. So next kay Alport naman. This is the master system of motivation that confers unity and personality. Syempre, this is just definition bala guys. Madumduman ko giging copy ko lang ni Ora. The master system of motivation that confers unity on personality is the appropriate functional autonomy. So kung nagtuon lang gid kamo ya maayo with your mock boards, kagin seryoso nyo siya, you could really answer this properly. So Bandura again, ano ang kinalain niya again for Bandura? Because we could learn through observation, through imitation, through modeling. Hindi nga resulta siya sa conditioning. Resulta siya kay gin-reinforce ka, gin-punish ka. Diba? Kaya may concept kid gani si Bandura sa aton nga, vicarious learning. Maski wala pa kita dira gin directly punish or gin rewardan, pero kung nakita naton sa iban nga tao that that behavior is rewarding or punishable, it could we should not or we could process it nga hindi ko siya sundon or sundon ko siya. Diba? Amo nang stanza concept ni Bandura, amo na as teachers ang gina-review namon sa inyo the main tenets of the theory. Dapat maintindihan ninyo. You try to discuss it with yourself. Amo ni ang naminsang behavioral. I-compare ko siya sa social learning, amo ni siya ya. So, you try to study amo na nga wiki para mas maintindihan ninyo, mas ma-compare ninyo. So, arinan, vicarious learning. Kung magamba encounter mo ni nga mga items, makambal kagid man nga, oo no, do nag-observe man siya tanan. Pero no. Diba, when we say vicarious learning, it involves rewards and punishment. Learning by observing others and reinforced by another person kung the receive man sang reward. Kaya definitely sa letter B na to, no, na-restrain niya ang iyang self from playing with her mother's makeup after witnessing her sister being scolded na ya. Diba, makita na to kay ginaakiga na hindi na ko to magamit sa makeup ni mama kay ginaakiga na akon nga utod. So that's vicarious learning kid. So next, Aria. In From's theory, humans have been stripped of our powerful instincts, but instead we have developed ability or the facility to reason. Amo na gani nga nag-develop gid kita sa human dilemma na mga basics anxiety kina-separate kita sa aton nga powerful instincts. So basahon ninyo ang overview sang theory ni Fromm kay para mas maintindihan ninyo. Kagaya na-emphasize ko gina siya during the lecture. So we acquire the facility to reason, meaning we're able to have decisions na makahambal na kita nga uh, hindi na ya sila nga parehas lang kita bala sa animals, able to reason and make decisions kin. So amo gina-understand kin nga ga-develop sa aton sa basic anxiety. So again, arigid. This is just the definition, di ba? Application na ni. 5 to 10 definitions from your friends are what we call, di ba? Central disposition. Cardinal yaya, laka lang na yang may mga cardinal disposition. Ang stylistic ya, muna iya ang nag-guide lang niya sa aton action, how we show ourselves mo kung mainit man da or malamig man. So dapat we need to wear clothes to warm us or to cover us. Pero how you show yourself, kung paano mo siya nga gina-present ang self mo nga ga-wear ka sang winter clothes or summer clothes, that's under the stylistic disposition. Secondary disposition, yeah, it depends on the situation. Anong prefer mo of flavors ng ice cream at that time. So those are not good fix. So central disposition ang tawag. Again, these are just definition, guys. So please study and analyze them. So there is nothing new under the sun. Wala gid sang bag-o diri sa palibot. So according to Fromm, each of the following character orientations possess this particular mindset. Diba? Kung saling kita receptive, those who are just receiving everything, ang source ng all good outside lang sa aton self. So, receive lang. So definitely, hindi ka man mahambal. Anong relate yan na sa wala gid bago sa kalibutan. Diba? So, exploitative, those yang aggressively take what they desire rather than passively receive it. So wala man di aggression abi nga na-involve. And marketing, amo ning di ba pinaka-harmful giniya, must see themselves as being in constant demand. Must make others believe that they are skillful and saleable. So maning mga wala na self identity gid because kung sino na anong didto ang mga upod niya gina-change naman niya ang iya self to make it saleable. So hoarding, it's because nga you cannot let go, kumbaga. So, next, individual psych, accentuated optimism because of this concept na. Diri bala, ba ako bala sa inyo, individual psych, na may nag-answer diri sa ang unconditional positive regard. Iyan na iyan ni Rogers. So, individual psych niya. So, definitely, you need to X this answer na sa first pa lang pagbasa nyo sa answer. So, ang concept niya sa individual psych is the creative power, the ability to shape our future. Fictional finalism, iyaman na sa individual psych, but it talks about our fictional goals, the goals. But the concept of optimism, nga ka-positive kids ang theories and individual psych, it's because of the concepts in creative power. And lastly, which of the following is the most important factor for a child to develop a healthy degree of social interest? Ari, gina-emphasize gini sa aton nga libro. Must be developed before it can contribute to useful lifestyle of life. It originates from the mother-child relationship. So, di ba, na-realize natin, kulang lang gid kita sa basa. Kulang lang gid kita sa analysis. So, dira ka mo nagakulang gid. So, as you study your abstract and your assessment, make sure nga amo na ang manner of studying ninyo. mas ma-absorb ninyo kag mas naintindihan ninyo ang concepts again. So I'm done with my items nga mostly damo gid ang naka-incorrect. Ma'am Wong, Ma'am Nisin, could I just proceed to IO or maano na lang tanay,
Yes,
ma-continue sa POP?
you may proceed, ma'am, sa IO.
Sige. Kay run out pagid gyapon di ma'am, at least karon tapos na ko in case. Sige, sige. Ma-proceed na lang ako sa IO ha. For my IO gamay lang ni. So under mine, ara ka sa training and development, group dynamics, organizational communication, and career management. So again, we are not, wala kami di ka gabal sa inyo nga ka-obvious gid sa answer, wala gid kita ka, wala pa gid kita ka kuha sa nga answer, no? Pero at least we could reflect kasi mabalaan nyo sa inyo own self, diin ko nagkulang. Diin ang sala sa pagtuon ko. Diin ang dapat ko pag i-improve kag i-enhance, di ba? So, pasalamat ka mo nga may Macboard. Pasalamat ka mo nga naka-experience ka mo ni Anay. As in, pasalamat kay kamo kay way kami niya guys kaagi. So, take this as really an opportunity to mag nga maka-learn ka mo kag mas ma-improve nyo pagid ang next ninyo. So, arigin screenshot ko na yun. So, medyo gamay siya. Sige lang, basahon ko na lang. Aims to prepare the new employee to set a right start. Din include ko lang siya pero hindi man, damo man actually naka-correct answer. Pero you need to analyze this nga hindi kay tungod training ang concept somehow. Training dapat dahil ang need. May specific program to address also. So that is the answer, especially kay new employee siya. So which of the following will not contribute to effective transfer of learning? So the answer is mass practice. Siyempre, tingbanay. So hindi gid siya effective. Tungod nga hindi makita ang individual capacity. So feedback hindi na iya, incentives hindi na iya. Ari ga kasala gid kita ni sa overlearning, so later ano ko na i-discuss ang overlearning. Kulang lang gid kita sa basa sa libro. Now, ari gid ya daga ugtas gid ako diya sa inyo. when in a group after having multiple disagreements, they start understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses and take on individual roles. Stages of ano lang ni bala group, paano mag-form ang group. So, hindi pa nato ni maintindihan. So, di ba, during the norming stage, the team works toward easing the tension from the storming. Tiwari now after having multiple disagreements. So, team members begin to acknowledge the reality of the team by accepting the team leader and working directly with other teams. So, na they start understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. So, definitely ang answer is norming, hindi forming. Okay? Forming una na iya. But na lang sa inyo. Ka mga cute. So next, this is the most common method of transmitting business-related information. So take note, memo gid kita na iya. Ang email ya, it's just primarily used to exchange general or timely information. Pero kung business-related information, memos gina padala. Mula natin, syempre, di pa na maintindihan gid kay we are not in a professional world. Pero at least, amo na importante, dapat balaan nyo na subong. Kaya kung ara na kamo sa professional field, kabalo ka mo kung ano ang dapat. So next, this element can be measured. Dako-dakoon ta na lang. Can be measured through the job satisfaction, work-life balance, and career fulfillment. So, amo ni ang two elements of career. Ari man ni sa notes ko nga ginhatag. So, we have the objective and subjective, diba? So, ang objective element natin, ang elements of job satisfaction niya, kag career elements, kinihimo-himo ko lang na iba lang nga choices. So, kung nabalaan natin nga kung ano ng two elements sa career na, mas maka-identify kita sa answer kit. So, objective, it could be seen through promotions, through salaries, ang ato niya yung subjective on how do we perceive our job, how do we balance our work life, career fulfillment kid. So next, a bank decides to send tellers, tellers who have a high incidence of shortages on the job to a retaining program in order to correct this problem. This practice demonstrates which type of needs analysis. Take note, sa pagbasa nyo pala sa first sentence, they decided to send tellers because of the incident nga ga-shortage ang may shortages sa job sa retraining program. So para para ma-address kay tellers. So definitely it's person analysis, not task analysis. Okay, kaya na-identify kung sino ang may mga problema. So which of the following types of person analysis methods eliminates the problems? Ari, gingkapi ko lang din sa libro. Ari man ang sa libro. Surveys offer several advantages. First, gina-eliminate ang problems sa, ara gido gabarakang gid sa una-una. Problems of performance, rating, errors. 'Di ba? Basa-basa din tayo ng ating mga libro, guys. So, ari na, overlearning. Which of the following is an effect of overlearning? Take note, ha? The term overlearning does not have the same meaning in training that it has on most college campuses. Ari ni sa inyo libro, ha? Sa libro ko ni ninyo ginkwa. In training, overlearning means practicing a task even after it has been successfully learned. So, many students, however, think of overlearning as the negative consequence of studying too hard. Diba? Kagbalanon gin nga mo gin ang inyo nga pag-intindi sa question kaya ang inyo nga answer is amo ni ang boredom. So, syempre, research in learning has indicated that the most similar the training situation is to the actual job situations, the more effective training will be. So, in other words, the transfer of training will be greater. So, once nga maka-encounter ka muli, what's ang word nga overlearning, sa training, hindi na yan negative. Hindi na iya sing ang iyang approach nga negative man ang matabo sa behavior. So this principle of learning refers to the relative size of the unit of materials. So, unit of materials to be learned. It depends on the nature and complexity of the material and the level of ability of the trainees. So motivation definitely hindi din na iya may isa pa nga nag-answer. Don't worry, hindi man hinamon mabalaan sino man ni ang mga respondents ka nag-answer nga ni. So try nyo na lang panumdaw sino diin ka mo ay nag-answer di. Kaya wala man kami kabalo kung sino nag-answer na. So whole versus part learning. So should they learn the whole again or just part by part lang? So definitely it refers to the materials. Diba? Not specifically to the individual differences. And lastly, so if a group becomes too cohesive and insulated from outside help, each of the social psych tani. So with groupthink, answer dire is groupthink, not group social loafing. X na dayon, kaya hindi amo na iya ang concepts ng social loafing. Group conflict, wala man group conflict na theory, X man na dayon, eliminate na. So ang bili na lang, group polarization kag group think. So it recall naton ano gani namin sang group think man, ano gani ang ginanamin sang group polarization. So kung wala na ninyo naintindihan, mabudlayan makamumag answer. So with groupthink, members become so cohesive and like-minded that they make poor decisions despite contrary information that might reasonably lead them to other options. Bala, your group gusto nila mag-skip classes even though you don't feel like it. Pero maging against ka sa group, so you will just skip classes. So kung anong ginapanumdum to sa grupo mismo, kaka-apektuhan ka. So that's groupthink. In group polarizations, it suggests that group members that will shift their beliefs to a more extreme version of what they already believe individually. So subangan butang natin sa mga political stand. Once nga ga-attend pagid sila sa mga kwan sang ilang politika when they join forces, mas nagagrabe pagid ang ila belief nga diri ko diya masuporta, hindi ko diya magsuporta. That's group polarization. Okay, so again, it's you go back to the book. You go back to the source of your notes. It's just your book. Okay, so please, I do hope nga ang ako again as a first ko walang reminders. My goal is not to give you the correct answers here. Our goal is to make you realize sa diin ako nagsala. Sa diin ang kulang ko sa pag-study. Okay, para mas ma-improve ko sa next as I prepare for the next mock or sa next na pre-board. So I don't want to give heavy expectations, no, but after saying this, after doing this, no, nag-extend kita gani Saturday classes just to have this. We are expecting that you will double or triple your effort sa next naton nga mock board. So, I'm not sure if you could still remember my examinations sa Canvas, yes, sa subjects natin in the past. I have this, ang akon nga verse gid that I cling when since pa nga nagaano ako naga-eskwela as I prepare for the boards and review. I always claim the James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you seek God. You ask God, and He will definitely give it to you generously. Pero hindi man kita pwede mangayo lang without doing our part. So balik ka, pamangkuta ang lawas mo, ginobra ko man gid bala ang party ko. Because at the end, as you face the results, do I really deserve this? Makita nyo gina sa inyong effort as you go back, as you reflect the process kung kamusta ka mo. So again, may times gid nga kapoy-kapoy, katalaka, grabe ang doubt, pause, rest, but never give up. Always go back to your why. The reason why are you doing this? Guys, sad to say, we will try to stick to the standards. We don't want you to leave or to graduate nga wala ka mo sang may nabalaan. This is for you guys. Hindi ni para sa amon. So, my part, I think I'll just end here. Ma'am Nisin, Ma'am Wong, ari na sila Sir Prince.
Yes, I'm here.
Ay, ara na.
Ay, tapos ka
Okay,
na,
so
ma'am.
guys, I'm done with my part sa POP kag sa IO. Ma-take over si Ma'am Wong or kung sino ang manext sa ila.
Pwede
Thank
ako.
you. If you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ay, ma'am, ni Sir Prince, pwede ako kasi I only have like less than 10 and I only have
Okay,
IO to rationalize. Wala ako sa POP. Sa POP ay naging problema kasi since, well, it's Freud, so no problem na sila kay Freud so far.
Okay lang, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. Sige, wait lang. Wait. So like what Ma'am Jane said, I also suggest you read the book. In my case, actually, alam ko na narinig nyo na to. It's like this has been one of the stories that I have been sharing. No, si Doc Limbadan was actually my teacher undergrad, and she was my IO teacher. They were brutal, actually. Imagine mo, ang final exams namin is only 2 questions. So, tawag nito. 2 questions that are randomly selected from chapters 1. Ilang chapters yun, sir? Basta the whole book ni Amon. So,
13 yata.
13. So, the whole chapter. So, our finals is 50-50. The first question is 50 points. The second question is 50 points, 100. So, it's either 100, pass, or fail. So, ang ginawa niya sa amin is, we read down the whole book kasi everything is determined by the fishbowl. So, she has 2 fishbowls. So, the first question and for the second question. So the first question is, okay, if there's 13 papers inside the fishbowl, so bunot ka, chapters 1 to 13. Okay, what is chapter 1 about? What is chapter 2 about? What is chapter 3 about? That's already 50 points. Then, may ano din siya, for example, kung chapter 2 ang napili mo, there are certain questions in chapter 2 na mapipili mo din. That's how brutal our final was. But eventually, of course, yes, iniyakan ko yung pag-study kasi sabi ko, hindi ko to kaya, I'm gonna fail. But what paid off is really reading. She forced us to read so that when the board exams came in, memorize, hindi naman sa memorize, but rather we are very familiar sa book na ni Amon. And the reason we're using sa book ni Amon, because true enough, most of the talaga, it was actually doon talaga kinuha karamihan sa mga items. Like mga role conflicts, stressors, etc. So that is why I was able to kahit hindi kami go-work, we were able to appreciate IO as one of the ones na nagpaangat ng scores namin. Okay, so really, it's really to read the book, no? And what will rescue you is not only the definition, but the examples in the book. Kasi sa board ninyo, it's really situational. Okay, it's really application. They will not tell you what is this immediately. Okay, this is the situation, what's happening. Parang ganyan. Or this is the situation, what's happening, and what do you do if nasa field ka. So that's why we're trying to condition all of you. But before, again, good morning, everyone. Before I start, I want to correct. No? I do apologize for the correction, and I will fix this. Buti na lang hindi siya graded. No? So this one is, I will not rationalize this kasi this is correction lang naman. So why is there a need to determine the first reason for evaluating employee performance? It's actually to, tama naman kayo, actually dito. It's actually to determine which appraisal techniques are best suited on reason. So it's not to primarily provide training, because training, it's just one of the reasons, but it's not the end goal all the time. Kasi, di ba, there are times na you evaluate employee performance, kaya i-promote ninyo, kaya din i-terminate, ay lay off ba sila, so on and so forth, for better productivity. So, it's actually, tama naman kayo dito. So, +1 for those who answered this, if you remember, to determine which appraisal techniques are best suited for the reason. And that's why I will not rationalize it, kasi 52% got it naman. Okay? It's like I said, it's not just for productivity ang mag-evaluate ng employee performance, ha? It's also to terminate. So if you notice, the very specific answer here is to determine which techniques are best suited. Kaya there are times I'm looking, it's difficult to make tawag nito multiple choice, lalo na in my case. It's because I think if may technique yan eh, pag very specific, that might be the answer. If very specific na parang taas-taas ng answer na very specific, lalo na sa akin, this is actually the answer. Okay, that's my technique. Pag masyadong vague or ambiguous or medyo hindi siya clear, it's too general, that's actually not the answer. That's actually the technique they also have. So, nakita ninyo na, okay, medyo specific siya. It fits almost perfectly than the rest na masyadong general. That's also a technique to eliminate, do eliminations sa multiple choice. And this is also, tawag na ito, this is also correction. It's actually forecasting, no? Inuunahan nyo na, forecast, di ba? Forecasting event. That's actually one way to remember it. Fiona tends to constantly worry about her future. Several what-ifs flood her mind, which negatively affects her productivity. So mga what-if, no, inuunahan na niya. Thus, it's actually forecasting. So I do apologize for these corrections. Okay? Ayusin ko siya, don't worry. Sige. Oh yeah, I forgot. Kailangan pala may notes, no? So I will... How do I exit this? Okay. So, konti lang talaga. So it's actually here. Sorry. Tawag nito. Ito. So this is actually one of the items nakita ko din. According to Muse, Harry Field, blank levels of stress, it's actually moderate. Okay. Because studies have shown in general, high levels of stress reduce performance. However, as mentioned, make curvilinear relationship between stress and job performance. So meaning, if low ang stress, it doesn't necessarily mean low ang stress, no, mas productive. And I think this goes with, there's a chapter, I know there's a chapter in the book where if there are no tasks, there are no stressors sa trabaho, what happens to the employee? They actually become bored, di ba? When they are overqualified, when the tasks are too easy, they become bored. So, not necessarily low levels of stress kasi they cannot, tawag nito, some of them might become bored na along the way. So, it's actually moderate lang, moderate levels. Ito yung sinasabi natin, tamang-tama lang. It motivates you to finish certain tasks, increase of energy levels. Uy, may gagawin ako. No? And to heighten creativity. Kung wala namang task, why would your energy levels increase? Heighten creativity, di ba? So, again, it's moderate levels. Okay, and it's already there in the book. Okay? So, and the reason you might ask, Ma'am, bakit kayo naglagay ng studies, Ma'am? Because I really remember that time sa IEO ba yun or sa ABSpsych, and I'm sure the Ma'am Agutay, Sir Prince, and Ma'am Tamayo can read it. Bigla na lang according to, biglang, So that is why I had to add this. So, ingat talaga kayo. There are certain examples or studies, lalo na if famous siya, it might appear in your board exam. Kasi I remember, yan ang first reklamo namin ng friends namin when we finish a psychometrician. Sino to si Muse Harrisfield? So you don't want that to happen to you. Okay? So, yun. So, company A provides canteens inside the establishment for incentives. The company provides free breakfast employees working at 7 a.m. It's actually easing daily chore burdens, and it's actually, again, in your book. So, to put it simply, many employees find it increasingly difficult to complete basic chores like cooking, going to the dentist, getting your car inspected, picking up dry cleaning, paglalaba. So organizations have this easing daily chores, that's your keyword, daily chores. Kasi why is the answer not easing occupational related burdens? What tawag nito? It's too broad. What do you mean by occupational related burdens? It's too broad, but with easing daily chore burdens, it's very specific. Diba? Picking up results, organization implement a variety of strategies to ease chores. Diba? Kaya there are times na, and I'm sure, and I think pakarelate kayo dito with online classes, diba? Kahit sabihin natin nasa bahay kayo, but pinapaano ka, may mga nililinis tayo, so on and so forth. So, companies that provide, okay, nandito na yung canteen, kahit wala kayong pera. That actually happened in NDRC, no? So, even though you don't have cash with you, they have a program where, sige, sulat mo na lang ang kinuha mo, then we will just deduct it from your salary, no, the incoming salary. So, kung naka 600 ka a month, ibabawas yung 600 sa sa salary mo this 15th or this 30th. Ganyan. So that's actually easing daily chore burden. So I don't have to worry to go to the ATM kasi wala ako cash. Ganyan. That's actually easing daily chore burdens. Okay. And ingat din, I actually did this on purpose. Ingat kayo kasi there are cases sa board exam where they actually mess with the names of the concepts and terms. Okay? So pag nakita niyo masyadong broad, ano to? Occupational related burdens. So, masyadong broad, what do you mean by, there are so many occupational related burdens, no? So, this is more specific. So that is why, and remember, it's easy to eliminate kasi pag broad siya. Okay? So sometimes the naming of the concepts are actually being jumbled to trick Kasi yan din ginagawa nila. Diba? Anyways, this is a type of appraisal dimension where an employee is based on many areas aside from the number of tasks done. So it's actually, an example is when a professor is expected not only to teach but also live up certain values. That's actually contextual, not trait. Kasi kung trait, ito pagka-friendly, pagka-diligence, but the keyword here, evaluated based on many areas aside from the number of tasks. And it's actually also in your book. Okay? I even use the example in your book. Okay? So, tawag nito. So, contextual performance, an effort employee makes to get along with peers, improve the organization, although they are not part of the job description. Okay? But, di ba? Mas maganda yung employee that they are capable at the same time may organizational fit and someone who has values. Okay? Diba? It's, for example, you have, yun nga, the best example here is a teacher. Oo nga, maka-teach siya, pero are you going to hire a teacher na, oo nga, matalino, pero have substance abuse, is suffering from substance abuse disorder, dinadala ang items niya sa school? Do you think that's okay? That's why in most companies talaga, they have this contextual ang focus nila na there's of course ginaway yan siya, ginaway naman, no, but here's the part ng book. Okay, so kita ninyo, many organizations include rating scales addressing technical aspects of the job as well as contextual. That is, they want employees who will be not only effective performers but good organizational citizens as well. Okay, so kahit sabihin natin kahit sabihin natin capable yan siya, pero ang dami niyang tawag nito, dami niyang cases. Of course, or very rude siya sa job niya. So, contextual performance. Okay, so it's more than one area. It's more than the task, more than the goal. So it's actually contextual. So that's the keyword, no? Based on research, the following observed qualities of perpetrators, except it actually has given an amount of salary. Kaya the keyword, the technique here sa akin is, tawag nito ito. Technique here sa ano ko is, aside from based from the book, pag masyadong vague or it's not really that specific. Kita ninyo, has easy access to weapons. Feel that he has no other way resolving mistreatment other than violence, and self-esteem is based on their job. So it's all here in the book. Okay? So has been given an unfair amount of salary. Siguro medyo na specific ko lang masyado. Kasi this can be a trigger. But, I mean, siguro based on experience, lahat, there are cases, most of us have been given an unfair amount of salary. But that is not just the ultimate trigger of actually tawag neto. That is not one of the observed qualities of, and keyword here is observed qualities then, no? So parang that's not, if you think na hindi, it's not enough. I think this is accept. Again, the keyword here is accept, ha? So be very mindful of the keyword accept. I think dito kayo sumabit kasi kikita ninyo ang daming has easy access to weapons, self-esteem is on their job. So again, accept. So please be mindful. Kasi may mga ganyan. The following, etc. Except, so bigla na lang, uy. So this word, be very careful sa board exam. Kasi I'm just relating what is to be expected. Okay? So this is actually, I think dapat di-specify ko kaninong study. So I think that's also on me. According kay Glotz, so on and so forth. Next is, Amanda is an employee who has been experiencing stress ever since the first day of work. If her stressors are left without solutions intervention, it's actually strain. Remember, ang predisposition to stress is how predisposed you are to stress. No, it can be genetic. In this situation, what happened? Nagpatong-patong ang work, nagpatong-patong ang stressors. So if continuous ang stressors niya since day one, it's actually strain ang tawag dyan. If these physical reactions occur for periods longer than our body can, negative physical, psychological consequences can occur. These consequences are actually called strains. Okay? So, ang predisposition to stress is actually more on genetics. How susceptible are you to getting stressed? Okay, so sa example, may may heart condition ka na, or so you're actually tawag natin, you are very susceptible to stress or very sensitive to very sensitive may anxiety, you're very actually predisposed to reacting. You are predisposed, but that does not necessarily mean na automatic stress ka agad. You are predisposed, pero if meds ka naman, you have your therapy, you have a support network, then it doesn't you are actually protected, okay, from these risk factors. So it's strain. Strain pag nagpatong-patong nang nag-accumulate na without any intervention, without any tawag neto. Kasi kaya din siya tawag strain kasi it leaves a strain on our body pag tuloy-tuloy ang stress na yan. Okay? And bakit siya hindi distress? Because this stress is actually the bad stress. Okay? As simple as that. This stress is the bad stress. Kasi yung stress is actually the good stress, diba? Next is an example of occupational stress is when an individual has work expectation that does not match up what they actually do. It's actually role conflict. So it's actually here na sa notes. Okay, so if you notice, nandito ng definition, nandito pang example. Okay, I know that the tawag nito, role conflict and role overload tend to be tawag nito. Minsan nag-overlap yan siya, but that is why I put the definition. Okay, bakit may iba all of the above? So pwede naman din all of the above, but what made it different, but what made it very specific is the definition. Okay, so nilagyan ko ng definition para hindi din kayo malito. So it's here. Okay, so again, it's in your book. Role conflict occurs when work expectations and what we think we should be doing don't match up with the work we actually have to do. Okay, so for example, a woman hired as an assistant, I was informed upon hire that she would be handling administrative duties, policy development, etc. Pero nangyari naging parang assistant tas siya, or rather secretary. Okay. Next, employment at will doctrine is when private sectors actually allow employers to freely terminate an employee because employees are actually free to leave their jobs at will. So it's actually tawag nito. Kasi the reason it's not all of the above, kasi the employment at will doctrine is really this. Ang definition niya is really private sector allows employee to terminate, freely terminate an employee. And the keyword here is employment at will. Hindi, employment at will. So it's really ang pag-hire and pag-fire ng employee. So, the use of words. It's not employees are free to leave because nangyari itong employment at will, if you're going to read at your book, the employment at will doctrine was implemented because companies noticed that, employees can actually leave. Why can't we terminate freely? Diba? And it's not actually public sectors kasi may limitation. Actually, if you're going to read that part of your book sa stressor, it's public sectors, institutional laws, or public law, public interest. Those are actually the limitations ng employment at will. They cannot actually do that. Okay? Sige. So yun, in the United States, so it's mostly the private sectors. And you look at, if you want, I could also, sana yun? Wait lang. So you have ang limitations ng employee at will is state law It's page 272 in your book. State law, provisions of federal state law, public policy, interest, contracts, implied contracts, covenants of good faith and fair dealing. Pero it's mostly private sector talaga to siya, not public. Ano pa? Oops, wait. And last one is, guys, the following are common recommended in managing work stress, except it's actually in your book. Okay, and you might think, ma'am, smoking reduction. Like, actually, siguro dapat nilagay ko na lang according to ganun. Pero yeah, that's also on me. But sa akin lang, the reason I put traveling as the except, it's because not everyone can afford to travel, di ba? And not tawag nito, parang gastos din ba yan siya? Okay, not everyone actually, wala namang nilagay dito joyride or so. And maybe that's actually part, siguro, having a healthy support network, part na siya sa bonding. Okay, but traveling wasn't actually part of the tawag nito. Siguro pag nilagay pa natin self-empowerment. Okay, but kaya nilagay ko traveling as the except because think about it. Can all employees, mothers, parents, can all of them actually afford? Diba? Pero sige lang, I will also maybe for all of you, see, para sa akin kasi traveling for me is not actually managing work stress. Kasi may ibang nangyayari, they do travel, they take vacations, but they bring their work with them. Diba? So, and there are actually work travels din. What kind of traveling is this? Hindi na specify. Kung vacation, pwede pa siya. Okay? Kung vacation, it may be. Yes, paid vacation leaves is actually a good, ito yung gusto ng mga employees. But just traveling, what do you mean by that? Work, travel, so on and so forth. Okay? So at least, so I think that's it from my part. So again, do not miss out on reading the examples. Kasi the goal here is not really to memorize, but to understand. It's easy to memorize if you can understand. Uy, these are the keywords. Uy, ito yung example ni ganito. Diba ganito ang sleep-wake cycle ng mga employees. These are called graveyard shifts because of the example. Some of you can actually relate to the terms graveyard shift. It's because aside from reading examples, some of you have actually experienced some of you are working. Diba? And you don't need to go through the definition because you know what it is. Diba? So, I really suggest, just to add lang sa sinabi ni Ma'am Jane, read examples, look for situations, lalo pag hindi ninyo maintindihan. Okay? And tawag neto, read talaga. If you want, may cue cards kayo for, ako, what I did is, I read the whole chapter, then make cue cards of the very important terms. Tapos ginaprint ko siya sa index card. Those days na uso pa yung index card, but ngayon it's just pwede namang sa tablet ninyo, phone ninyo. Just for chapter 1, what are the important concepts? Okay? Tapos pag hindi ninyo maintindihan, you can actually put situations para ma-remind kayo, okay, this is the meaning of this. Okay? Kaya na-notice ninyo, mahaba yan talaga mga books ninyo, not because of the definitions or so, but because of the examples and researches that they present. Okay? So I think that's it. TOP so far, everyone's okay naman. It's because it's just karamihan. We have your Freud, the traits, or so. Tapos nilalagay ko din kasi according to Freud, according to Rollier, so parang I think that actually helped. Okay? So, ma'am and sir, I am done with my part. Mostly sayo lang talaga ako sumabit. Kami sumabit. So,
I'll be next.
So thank you, students. So I'll give the floor to Sir Douglas.
Okay, thank you. In regards with what Ms. Wong had said, you need to read the book, Gidya. That's the first thing to do. And always remember, in your majors, from theories of personality, IO, abnormal psych assessment, tinakol na lahat ng nasa book. Even you also reported that kung gipa-report ka mo sa mga subject. So it means kinahanglan lang gid ninyo nga mag-study, use your cognition and recall to understand the concept and the theories. So first, syempre, ang una-una, kailangan lagpaton gid ang mga terms, and then after mo malagpat ang terms, kinahanglan mo maintindihan ang concept or ang terms sa kung diin siya gin-apply. And that's why in every chapter sa pangalan siya, for example, in theories of personality, meron kita Freud, meron kita Jung. Dapat kinahanglan sa pag atake sa question, kung mabasahan mo kay Freud ini, kinahanglan may ara ka na sang imo sang mind map about kay Freud. For example, nabasahan mo ang question Jung. Tapos baka ano kaya itong mga concept ni Jung? Dapat ara na sa imo mind map. In order for you to develop a mind map, you need to strategize. Okay? It's either you write a note, tapos itapik mo siya sa wall. For me, it can do para lang naman every time magtulog ka, you refresh things. Or also, you do your mind palace thing. Like sa CR, si Freud, sa sala, si Jung, you can do that. Para every time mag-roam around ka sa balay, kay sa balay ka man lang permi, you can memorize the concept. So that's why hibaluon permi ang item. For example, in IO, is it in leadership? Then what are the terms, concept, theories in leadership? Para hindi ka na lisa pa. Kung leadership ang pamangkot, tanan niya hindi leadership, X sa choices. Okay? So allow me to demonstrate that to you. Let me share my screen with you guys. So aside from the notes ang ginahatag ni Ma'am Cognisers, which we've read 2 to 3 books for that one, you need to read an individual book for you to understand the concept. Kaya again, habang mismo, may mga example gimantira. Okay? So I don't have time to prepare for the knowledge part. I put some knowledge part, pero yeah, I don't have time. Okay? But allow me to make use of, allow me to demonstrate my strategy to you. Wait lang, slideshow na lang natin. So mock board examination for theories of personality. So this one is just a test on how you are going to make use of your strategy and if you pass sa munilig pa lang level, because at the end of your psych assessment and abnormal, makuha ka mo sang daw pseudo mock board, which is your pre-board. So dira na kami makuha sang inyo grade. So in this example, you can see statistics in here, item analysis, student analysis. Now, when we say discrimination analysis, it is to discriminate item from one another, as well as looking into the choices. If the choices are very hard, so makitaan mo negative siya, it means na budaya ng student mag-discriminate kung anong pinaka-tsakto nga choices, because all the choices are very hard to look into. But if ang discrimination index is mataas, it means that mahupos lang maintindihan ng choices. Now, the average score for your theories of personality is 46%. Highest score is 70. Our passing is 75. Well, matatanggap naman si 70. But in your pre-board, hopefully you can makabawi. Kung amo ni yung score subong, for example, your score is 50, it's okay because it's your first time to take your mock board, right? And then I hope in the next pre-board mas tumaas siya ng konti. Lagay natin from 50, 75, okay na 'yon. Okay? I-pass lang yung subject. So you just need to read, familiarize the term, and use the examples to understand more of the concept in POP or IO. Low score natin is 23. I think one of the issue here is time. So ang iban, sigdasig magkuha. Okay, gintagaan ka mo 3 hours to stay at one item and discriminate choices per choices. Hindi nga one item, 1 minute, and then proceed to the next. Hindi ka kabalo, wala ka nag-give sa imo best to discriminate. So, ang imuhimuon, if you have given 3 hours or whatsoever time, maximize your time. For example, sa isa ka question na budlayan ikaw, I think someone is. Okay, yeah, don't speed run. Kung tagaani ko sa 3 hours, kailangan i-maximize mo ang imo time. Okay? So, sa isa ka problem, for example, kung laban-laban na daya item, hindi mag-minimize mo, which is sometimes we do that kung we don't know talaga. Okay? But try to make use of the item or the stem, ang question, and then kuha ka da sang clue words, kag tulukon mo ang imo mga choices and you do elimination method. For example, I eliminate A, I eliminate B, kaya hindi siya leadership. C and D oh, our leadership question. So either C or D na lang. And depende na sa imo kung paano mo siya ansiran. And also, syempre, hindi mo ma-ansiran ng question kung wala kang nagtuon mismo. Or wala ka nagpamati. It's sometimes mas wala ka nagpamati pero kung mayroon kita recall, it's or either recognition or likely ma-retrieve mo yung memory. Okay? So yung low score natin is 23, yung high score natin is 70, which is really good kasi sa TOP naman talaga this one is my very high among the four. And then standard deviation natin is 10.7 and the average time is 1 hour and 32. See, 1 hour and 32 hindi tinapos yung 3 hours. Siguro kung kung bibigyan mo ako ng 3 hours in my first mock board, siguro I can pass it. I will not say that I can top it, but I can pass it. Kasi there will be tendency na mapapas mo siya because you utilize the time. The more na pinag-iisipan mo yung question, the more na makakita ka ng lusot. But sometimes to others, the more that you take time to a certain question, the more ka na-confuse. Kaya nga, you need to always read. Diba? Okay, let's start with our first question. This one is TOP, and I'm basing in not the discrimination index, but in the answered correctly, which is 13%. So 13% lang. Now, which among the traits are dynamic? So first and foremost, kaninong theory to? Okay? Which among the trait are dynamic? So trait meaning trait theory. No, ang tanong, sinong trait theory? Okay? Or theorist. So the questions are surface and source, ergs and meta-ergs, sems and ability traits, sentiments and temperament traits. Meron ba yan si Ising? Meron ba yan si Macrae and Costa? How about si Henry Murray? Diba? So more likely, your trait theorist here is Cattell. Diba? And si Cattell, meron siyang present na approach to personality traits. And yung approach to personality traits are classified according to, number 1, universality versus uniqueness. And under that approach is common and unique traits. It's either common to all or unique to individual, which is more likely equal to individual psychology of individual by Alport, di ba? Next is class according to movement and specification. So we have temperament, ability, and dynamic traits. Di ba? So therefore, since your movement and specification, nandiyan na si temperament, si ability, and dynamic, nasa individual question siya. So may temperament, ability, and dynamic. The question here is which among the traits are dynamic. So therefore, temperaments and ability are separate traits. So delete this one. Okay? X na niya. Ang pangita natin, dynamic trait. So your C and D, X na. So we will going to focus to A and B. Diba? The next is, under your dynamic traits, we have 2, your ergs, which is your instinct or drive, and your meta-ergs or sentiments or SEMs, or tinatawag natin socially shaped ergic manifolds, which is based on external social and physical influences. So therefore, the answer here is ergs and meta-ergs under your dynamic trait. Now, your surface and source trait is a class according to stability and permanence. Always remember your 16 PF is a source trait. Diba? And also your ergs is part of your constitutional traits, which is under your class according to origin. So again, yung C tsaka yung D wala na ni. Kaya because di ba under sila sa class according to movement and specification, we have ability, temperament, dynamic. Okay, so ganito pa man ko tatong dynamics or C and D is deleted and we need to focus to A and B. Now, as we know that your A is a class according to stability and permanence, so this one is deleted as well. So the correct answer will be B, ergs and meta-ergs. Naintindihan? So kinahanglan kabalo kaya mag-discriminate kung ano na siya nga theorist first and then look into the concept and terms sang sina nga theorist. So let's go now to the second. Which among the traits don't have a strong hereditary component? Strong hereditary component in trait theory, meron siyang biological periphery specifically for Macrae and Costa, diba? But more likely, there will be part of the traits that are environmental in origin. For example, for Cattell, meron siyang environmental mold traits, di ba? So more likely may environmental. But ang tanong dito, don't have a strong component. Now sa kay I-zinc, we have the pen. Di ba? Pen, psychoticism, extroversion, neuroticism. So therefore, your extroversion kag neuroticism is deleted because your E and N have a strong hereditary component. Naintindihan? May strong hereditary component. Now, in this one, kasi sino inisang theory, it can be kay Ising, but since may agreeableness and consensusness kita, this one is for Macrae and Costa's five-factor theory. So your extroversion and neuroticism is deleted na. Okay? Deleted na ni siya because they have strong hereditary component. Ang ginapangitan natin is don't have a strong. So kinahanglan mabalaan mo nga ang may term nga don't. Sometimes yung estudyante wala na ni ginabasa, didiretso na answer. Kaya gamali sila. The next is consensusness. Now kay Macrae and Costa, ang may ara sang biological nga una nga na-identify niya is extroversion, neuroticism, kag openness, which is similar to intelligence, di ba, openness. And then later on, followed by consensusness. And then last will be agreeableness. Now agreeableness, was found to have a strong environmental component. Diba? So agreeableness is the answer here. So based on research sa Hong Kong, India, Australia, agreeableness has have a strong environmental component. So therefore, the answer to your don't have a strong hereditary component is agreeableness. Next, in the lens of personology. From the word personology, sinong theorist to? Si Henry Murray. Now, Henry Murray, I give items for Henry Murray. This one is just for you to know the meaning of the psychogenic needs. So this refers to the need to submit passively to external forces. Submit passively, ha? Okay, which also signal low self-regard. So our clue word here is low self-regard and even submit passively. Okay, so let's go now to Murray. So when we see abasement here, let's go to affiliation. When we see affiliation, it means enjoyable cooperation. This is under your needs concerned with affection between people. Again, enjoyable cooperation. So if it is enjoyable cooperation or to affiliate with people for you to build relationship, is it to submit passively? Passively ang term. So therefore, your affiliation is a no-no already. Now, before going to that, contrasting choices here is your succurrence and infavoidance because your succurrence is to support, to always have a support. So based on your item, may aradra ba lang to always have a support? While your succurrence naman, your infavoidance is concealing a handicap or a failure or failing, concealing a handicap, concealing handicap. So more of you are defensing or building these defenses. So therefore, succurrence and infavoidance is deleted items. Hindi mo na siya dapat mag-i-answer based on the definition. Now, very tricky si affiliation kasi the question is to submit to external forces. So may more likely na interaction. So that's why 40% sa inyo nag-answer affiliation. But if you're going to look into what I said earlier, affiliation, it's more of there's a positive interaction with people and building relationship, not passive. So therefore, the answer here is abasement because of the low self-regard. Diba? So abasement, it's more of you submit passively, which signals a low self-regard. Okay? So meaning naman ina siya. And then, syempre, this one is a common term lang, like abasement, di ba? Common term lang man yan. Next is, which among the therapy or techniques is applicable in correcting stereotypic movement in patients with an autism spectrum disorder? So, dire, actually, your systematic desensitization is under your cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a technique that is used in your CBT. Now, your systematic desensitization is to gradually an evidence-based approach that combines relaxation technique with gradual exposure. So you gradually expose an individual with the use of breathing exercises. It's either you make use of imagination technique or yung merong isang bagay dyan and then you gradually expose it, like in terms of distance. And then it helps you slowly overcome phobia, anxiety, or PTSD. So from the word systematic desensitization, since focus niya more likely is in anxiety, phobia, PTSD, and whatsoever, ang stereotypic movement in patient with ASD, hindi siya sa applicable. Okay, when you see stereotypic movement, repetitive flapping, clapping, jumping, jerking, that's stereotypic movement. Okay? So your systematic desensitization is not an option. While your CBT as a whole, eto talaga, very general to, CBT. But in CBT kasi, in using your cognitive triangle, it's more of you change the thought, you change the emotion, and then the behavior will going to follow. So thought, emotion, behavior, that's your cognitive triangle, right? But the question here is movement. Movement. So in patients with ASD na meron siyang stereotypic movement, you cannot change the thought. You cannot change the thought. How about if ang child with autism has a low intelligence? Diba? Based on intelligence test, gamaya iya sang intelligence, wala siya sang insight. So paano mo ma-change ang thought to be followed sa emotion na ma-follow na sa behavior kung hindi mo gani ma-change ang thought. So therefore, as your cognitive behavioral therapy, which is really broad, implies you cannot change this one. This one is behavioral. So deleted na systematic desensitization and cognitive behavioral therapy. Next is interpersonal therapy. For interpersonal therapy, yung goal dire is ano bang goal? Mastery of social roles and adoption to interpersonal situations. So more interpersonal. So therefore, this one is a unicorn among the choices. So delete interpersonal, delete systematic desensitization. Kung hindi ka sure kung CBT or ABA, tulukan mo kung ano ang gina-imply sang choices. Okay? Meron ba diyang inconsistency sa thinking? Meron ba diyang bizarre emotions that need to be corrected? Or behavior? Yes, may behavior, but straightforward behavior ni siya. Stereotypic movement, you cannot do that if thinking lang gid ang imo i-correct. Kaya di ba in triangling cognitive triangle, kinahanglan tatlo na sila. So the best technique here is ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis, which is more likely applicable with children with special needs. It is a form of therapy to treat issues with communication, motor skills, and behavioral disorder. For example, meron siyang stereotypic movement, mahirap mag-coordinate ang iyang body. One of the practice na ibibigay ni psychologist and with the help of your occupational therapist is for a child to pick up a coin. So for those who have ASD na merong problem in fine and gross motor skills and even with stereotypic movement, nahihirapan sila mag-pick up sang coin sa floor. Okay? So by using ABA, ma-foster yung growth, yung development ng fine and later on gross motor skills and then sometimes to correct the repetitive movement. So ABA is your best option in here. Next, in the history of psychology development as a science, which of the following is true of John B. Watson's contribution? Which is true. Okay? Choice number 3, C. Ang choice C is X because hindi na siya kay Watson. This one is for Wilhelm Wundt. Diba? Kay Wilhelm Wundt ni. Next, he was the first to concentrate research or first to concentrate research in conscious Watson. Later pa na, di ba sa Watson, sang behaviorist na nag-pick ang behaviorism. Sinong nauna sa school of thought? Structuralism and functionalism. Then later on na si behaviorism. So therefore, Wundt, which is part of the structuralism, also initiated the efforts in conscious experience. So therefore, kumbaga maka-first, hindi na contribution ni Watson. Diba? Kinanglan himay-himayon mo gidya ang question. Kung hindi ka balubi saya, ihilig nun bala. So therefore, your A choice is a no. Okay? It's either I will going to answer B or C, but he emphasized the importance of studying both overt and covert. Again, both overt and covert. Since Watson is a behaviorist, he despised covert behavior. You want gani to reduce behavior into stimulus response unit. Nga man matouch pa siya sa covert. But it is want to make use of the overt and covert. Paano na make use ni Wundt ang covert? Kaya ang ilang method, di ba ang methods ng structuralism kag functionalism is introspection. When I say introspection, to look within. And when you look within, it's somewhat covert. It's somewhat unconscious. You're looking into the process. Diba? So therefore, the D is not a good answer. But the C is a good answer because B. Watson opposed the work of Wilhelm Wundt. So this is the best answer the way we criticize choices per choices. Okay? Naintindihan? Okay, because based on history, Watson argued with the work of Wundt. Diba? In his Wundtian psychology or voluntary psychology. So this is the best answer. Only 5% got it. Well, it's difficult because it's history. Pero if you just going to use your rational thinking on to discriminate choices per choices, sana. Okay? Well, tricky giman si 39. Tricky. Pero yung question here, Watson is a behaviorist and then your item is overt and covert. Okay, sana pag overt, we can accept D or the fourth choice, right? I hope it makes sense, ha? Next is, he tried to reduce behavior in a stimulus response unit. So we have Skinner and Watson. Skinner and Watson is a radical behaviorist. But well, you know, B.F. Skinner deserved the title as a radical behaviorist. But, okay, the question here is stimulus response unit. And I want you to look into the concept of classical conditioning, wherein they pair, there's a stimulus and there's a response that is unconditioned. And later on, if you do repetition based on the experiment, there will be conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. So therefore, more likely, the classical conditioning field is somewhat related to reducing behavior into stimulus response unit. Now for Albert Bandura, X na yan siya because new behaviorism siya, more of social behaviorism, right? So delete na si Albert Bandura. Yung theory niya is social cognitive or social learning theory. Now, for Thorndike, law of effect, yes, butang naton more likely malapit siya sa classical pero more likely ang practice niya is a reinforcement. You increase positive behavior by rewarding. Okay, that's more of Thorndike, so hindi siya related sa classical. Now, Watson is somewhat related to classical. It's because of his Baby Albert experiment. Diba anong gimpair dito sa sound or sa whistle or whatsoever nga, you know, para makibot ang bata? Diba a white rat? So more likely, na-reduce niya into behavioral stimulus response. So John B. Watson is the best answer here. While B.F. Skinner is operant conditioning reinforcement. So the thought here is that if B.F. Skinner were going to reduce it to stimulus response, bakit pa siya nag-reinforcement? Diba? Diba ang gusto lang naman sa stimulus response unit? May stimulus, you will response. May stimulus, you will respond. Wala ideya na gambal nga, I will going to reward you para mag-maintain ang good behavior. Diba? So therefore, the concept of B.F. Skinner is, though malapit sila, since behaviorist naman sila, pero John B. Watson clearly hit the spot. Okay? Because of what we call the classical conditioning. Classical conditioning look into stimulus response unit. Naintindihan? Hopefully naintindihan ha kasi 9 lang yung nag-answer nito, marami yung B.F. Skinner. Yes, radical behaviorist siya kasi he believed hardcore talaga na overt behavior lang. Pero yung question dito is Yung behavior, stimulus, response lang. Pag may stimulus, you respond. So therefore, your personality is determined by your response. Okay? Walang reinforcement, walang punishment, di ba? Hopefully, gets ha? Kasi mababa. Next is, this one is, Taxonomy theory, Henry Murray. Okay? Based on the choices, Henry Murray to. Marcia believes that to be a good leader, one should be a good follower. Good follower. More likely, Marcia will follow the organization leader and will cooperate to finish a certain task. So therefore, there is conformity, and as well as there will be yung feeling na to be praised. Because nga, you're a good follower. So more likely, your leader will going to praise you, and as well as you will going to conform. Now, wala sa affiliation. Affiliation is a enjoyable cooperation or building relationship with people. Yeah, which is very tricky kasi nga of what we call interaction. But for the affiliation kasi, you just affiliate. Okay, you just affiliate. You just interact with people. Okay? Kung mag-interact ka kay people, may ara ka sang to finish a certain task. Diba? But if you conform, because you're a good leader, you conform, diba, sa kung anong ginahambal ni leader. So therefore, pag sinabi niyang, gawin mo yan, kasi yan yung tama, more likely gagawin mo siya. Okay? Now, the question there is, nagbibuild ka ba ng relationship kay leader? Paano kung marami kayo na follower? Like Kibuloy. Okay? Do you think kilala ka ni Kibuloy? Diba? Hindi man. So, affiliation, it's more of hardcore, I will going to build relationship with you. While difference is, I will going to follow you. Okay? I will conform to what you are saying because you're a good leader. So the answer here is difference. No, masochism is not an option. Cognizance is more of how you understand things. So therefore, the question, wala di kasang understanding na things, so cognizance is not an option. So you delete first. For example, if wala bago mo lang siya nakitaan, masochism is a no-no, X. Cognizance, understanding, wala na siya. Focus ka na lang sa affiliation and difference, and you need to just read between the lines on what appropriate answer. Okay? So more likely, that's why mahumot ang affiliation because of a good follower. Diba? But the true answer here is difference. And difference is under the needs to connect with human power, while affiliation is under the needs to concerned with affection between people. Affection between people, niyaya ang affiliation. Ang difference niya, with human power. Bakit siya nagpa-follow? Not because to connect, but for power. Okay, because when you follow a person, maski hindi ka niya kilala, basta higher stature, more likely magkakaroon ka din ng higher stature na power. Power identification ba? Next, factor analysis overall objective is R. I think this one, mahumot ang A na option. But in here, let's look at the choices for data analytics. Yes, your factor analysis is for data analytics, but it's too broad. Data analytics consists of your analysis as well as your statistics, but it's too broad. To test the difference between variable, to test the difference, ano ka parametric test? Factor analysis, parametric test ka ba? Variable ba yung dinidil mo? Sir, yung dinidil ng factor analysis items eh. Gusto niya lahat ng mga pare-parehas na correlation na scores, yun yung makalapit na item. Okay? Sir, yung A for predicting the relationship between items, pwede. But predicting. Okay? Predicting ha? Regression. So more likely, sir, yung data summarization and data reduction, it's more of descriptive. But if you're going to understand what factor analysis is, it's just to summarize all the data that these items is under A dimension, this item is under B dimension, and reduce the data. So when you say reduce the data, all nawala siya nag-fall sa mga dimensions when you factor analyze, delete. So therefore, the best answer here is for data summarization and data reduction kasi the question is overall objective. Pwede sana yung predicting the relationship between items if it is a specific objective. So again, ang pamangkot di, overall. Doon nag-ano ka bala, nag-statement of the problem. Diba? Kung mag-statement of the problem, nag-specify ka na ba? Wala. Kaya mahumot si A, it's because gani of items na term. Sometimes, in the board exam, ihatag na si imo yung answer. You just need to understand it in a superficial or surfacial level. But sometimes, pag mahirap yung items, kinahanglan mag-dig deeper. Okay? It doesn't mean na may items, that's the answer. You need to rationalize it to yourself. And rationalization is a defense mechanism, meaning to make excuses. It's either you're using sour graping technique or sweet lemonade. Okay, let's proceed to next. Which of the following directly proves the existence? Again, directly proves the existence. Okay, did you ang word directly proves the existence of the collective unconscious as explained by Jung. So therefore, yung similarity, ekis na ina, di ba? Yung cultural differences, pwede. Okay? Ekis na yung A ha. The passing on a cultural practices from previous generation to the next, which is a definition of your collective unconscious, kaya siya mahumot. But the question here is, which of the following directly proves the existence? Paano nahimo ang collective unconscious gani? Paano siya ging conceptualize ni Jung? So the answer here is because of the existence of myths, legends, and religious belief because of his background in occult and mysticism, archaeology, sociology, psychology, religion study, peace studies. Because, kaya nagkaroon siyang collective unconscious. So basaha ang question ni Watt and you evaluate directly proves the existence. Yes, si mahumot siya, but that's the definition. Okay? Naghambal ba dyan? Which of the following defines collective unconscious? Di ba wala? So therefore, your best answer will be letter D. Okay? 21 lang, very good. Siguro nag-analyze din sila. 21% nag-analyze kidney. So if isa ka sa 21, very good. Meaning, may clinical eye chart, alam mo lang talaga yung theorist mo. Okay? So hopefully yung Freud, Adler, tsaka yung alam na natin yan ha. Mahiya kayo sa Trinity natin. Next, it is a stage where the return to the consideration of cognitive processes while maintaining the focus on the overt behavior takes place. Return. So meaning, sang time ni behaviorism, gin-despise niya ang whatever is overt. Diba, behaviorism, we have your Skinner, I think so. Is it a Watson? So we have Watson for behaviorism. So therefore, return of the cognitive process, behaviorism is not your option. Your neo-behaviorism is more of the reinforcement, more of operationalizing things. So still behaviorist pa rin yung perspective. That's why your neo-behaviorism is not an option. Comparative psychology is an emerging psychology in the field of behaviorism because we are using animals in doing experiment. Kasi sinabi nila yung brain daw is tantamount to the human brain. But again, the human brain is complex. Well, the answer here is neo-behaviorism or social behaviorism or socio-behaviorism because nga of the return. Diba? In Bandura, social learning theory is social cognitive. We behave or we model behavior. And aside from we behave or model behavior kasi gusto natin yun or we have motivation to do so, but we process things in our mind or in our brain. Hindi pwedeng may nakitaan ka lang, then you have your behavior. No, you still process it. Diba? So neo-behaviorism is the answer and it is a straightforward question based on the notes that I had given to you. Okay, so that's the end of our... Yun na ba? Yun na yun. Yun na for TOP. Unit for TOP. Let's go now to industrial side. Yun na for the TOP. Okay. Jenna is a salesperson who gets paid for every unit, okay, of lotion she sells in a week. The more lotion, sorry, she sells, the higher her income. This incentive plan is often called as incentive plan. So pag sinabing incentive plan, anong chapter yan ng book or anong tawag dito? Uh, anong part yan ng book ni Amot nasa uh, job evaluation yan na section. Okay, chapter 2, job evaluation when you are looking into someone's worth. Okay? Now, reinforcement theory, ang application niya is incentive system or incentive plan because nga we reward, di ba? We give reward, salary, benefit. And one of the application, aside from the reinforcement theory, one of the application of your equity theory and your expectancy theory is also incentive plan. We have your pay and salary plan, but more likely equity theory because nga of what we call equity. Now, under your type of incentives, di ba we have methods in giving incentives. It's either you use the Premack principle. When you say Premack principle, it's more of one is not one is not functioning or performing well kasi yung work niya is ulit-ulit. So if you are going to present a new work that is less boring, di ba? That will going to reinforce the individual. It's because binigyan ako ng bagong work. So meaning bago to sa akin. So I need my focus, attention to finish that. That's a Premack principle. Or another way to do the Premack principle is an individual or employee construct a reinforcement hierarchy. Okay? And then i-list niya yung mga gusto niya. Like sana gusto kong ganito na work. And then the top management or the supervisor in charge sa kanya will going to give kung ano man yung appropriate na maging reinforcement niya every time gumawa siya ng good behavior. So again, it's so boring that I need to have a less boring job for me to be reinforced. Okay? So wala dira sang reward na hardcore salary. Wala. It's more of I'm adding something to you in order for you to do well. That's Premack. Next, for your methods in giving incentive, financial reward. Ito na talaga yung pera. O yung variable pay na tinatawag natin. Next is recognition and travel. Okay? Now, after we identify the methods in giving incentive, kailangan natin maintindihan kung individual ba siya or group incentive. And in individual or group incentive, for example, in group incentive, is it a profit sharing? Is it a gain sharing or stock option? So your gain sharing and profit sharing is a no-no already. It's because Jenna, atong ginistoryahan si Jenna. Si Jenna ba group? Hindi. Individual si Jenna. So therefore, we are going to focus with merit or EAR plan or earning at risk. So in your individual incentive, we have your merit pay. When you say merit pay, it is you base your incentive on your performance appraisal. Kung mataas ang performance appraisal mo, may ara ka sang additional pay. That's a merit pay. While you're earning at risk pay, or tinatawag natin pay for performance, it's either you are paid because of your commission or your piecework. And when you say commission, you are paid for each unit of something sold. When you say piecework, you are paid for each unit something produced. So in here, you are paid of unit for each unit of something sold. So si Jenna, bayran siya of each unit of something sold. So therefore, the best option here is earning at risk plan. Wala naman ta nag-appraisal system diri para magkaroon siya ng merit pay. So the best answer is your EAR plan. So kailangan balaan mo kung diini ng chapter para ma-recall ka na lang sa brain kung ano inadara nga mga incentive plan. Okay? Next question. It has been described as the fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business processes to achieve dramatic improvement in cost, quality, service, and speed. So this one will be under your organizational behavior, more likely in the designs and systems, organizational designs and systems. So at the end, so we have your contemporary organizational design processes. Processes ha, and ang introduce dun sa book is yung re-engineering and rethinking Okay? Eh sir, walang rethinking na option, pero nilagay niya fundamental rethinking. Okay, di ba? Doon ka, tricky siya. But your downsizing here is not an option. Delete it. Okay? Alam tayo wala, paano siya mag-downsize kung may ara kita? Dramatic improvement in cost, quality, service, and speed. Okay? So paano kung magkakaroon ng quality service if you laid off half of your employee? The downsizing is not an option. Change management is not an option. Ang change management, gawa-gawa ko lang man yan. Okay, though we have, your organizational development, and under that is your organizational change. So your management here is gawa-gawa lang. So it's either your answer will be restructuring or engineering. Now, restructuring is the other word to restructure when you are doing your OD. But the best term to use is re-engineering, which is a radical design of organizational processes to achieve major gains in cost, time, and provision of services. So as we can see, very straightforward yung meaning niya, radical design of business processes. Nilagyan lang ng rethinking para more likely you will think na it's restructuring. Diba? But again, the contemporary organizational design processes is only two. It's either you re-engineer or you rethink. Okay? You rethink. Walang restructure kasi restructure, later na yan if you want to establish change. Siyempre, i-restructure gid man niya ang culture or anong problema dira. Alang naman hindi mo mag-restructure if you are initiating change, you are going to restructure things. Diba? But the best answer here is re-engineering. Okay? Ang mga 26% base nagbasa in libro or notes, very good. Next is, I know this one is mahirap, but it's very easy lang din. It is an organizational culture where a clear structure is present. Clear structure, hierarchies are imposed with authority flowing from top to bottom, and authority is properly delegated. So we have kind of organizational culture or types. We have your power, person, role, and task. When you say power, student, control is enforced from the center of the org outward. So sino ang center? Okay? Siyempre, the top management. And it escalates outside. Okay? So diriya, hierarchies are imposed with authority flowing from top to bottom. Yes, pwede siya maging power. But authority is properly delegated. Yes, pwede siyang mag-escalate outside. But here, let's look into other culture. Kaya gani, mahumot si power. This one shows power, the item itself. Person culture is very selfish because nga, the control is enforced from the self. Very selfish ni siya. It means that everyone believes that he or she is above the org itself. Kung kabalugid siya, therefore may person culture kita. For example, in every department, kung ang department gina-award ng permen, HR, so ang mabusang ila moral kag feeling nila nga silang importante. Kaya it's a very selfish culture. Now, role naman is based on rules which are highly controlled with everyone in the organization knowing what their roles and responsibilities are. Now, power is determined by roles in terms of the position in the org structure. Iniya, position in the org structure. Okay, because if you're a boss, dila ang imo power, your role. So in this example, this one is a role culture aside from power culture. It's because aside from the inherent power, maginhatag mo sa top management, this one is based on roles. So therefore, may clear structure siya. Hierarchies are imposed with authority flowing from top to bottom. It means not only that you have upward communication or upward from the CEO pakadto sa dalom, but yung authority is flowing. When you say flowing, hindi lang siya sa top management, but pwede man siya nga supervisors ang imo sang department or ang imo sang head. Okay? So ang authority ga-flow. Wala siya naghambang nga centralized lang gid. Nag-flow siya, and flow explains fluidity, adaptability of authority. So that's why the best answer here is role culture. Pero I know nga mahasala ka gid man kung power culture ang imo gimbutang nga gin sa pag-intindi mo sa question, power culture ang gin-answer. So masala ka gid man, but the best to explain this one is your role culture. Now, what is task culture? It's more of your teams. Teams in an organizations are formed to address specific problems or progress project, and task culture will going to tell you that this culture of a certain project is just referent to that kind of team. Hindi siya wholesome. So more specific si task culture. Okay? Herzberg two-factor theory is under what umbrella? The answer here is job design. Okay? Let's go now to two divided umbrella, which is content and process. Okay? We're looking into content. This one is a motivational theory, di ba? Motivational theory ni siya. So we have content and process. In content, under that is your need-based theory. And your need-based theory are just your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your Alderfer's ERG theory, and McClelland's acquired need theory. So therefore, Herzberg theory is not part of it. Diba? So therefore, X is na need base. Now let's go now to your process base. And your process base is divided into behavior, cognitive, and job design based theory. Okay? So when you say behavior ay cognitive based, cognitive based muna tayo. We have your Adams equity theory, Vroom's expectancy theory. Because it's more of cognitive, it's more of if it's not cognitive, it's more of looking into the process. And Vroom's meron siya formula, and ang kay equity may ara sa input output. So it's a process, diba? Next is behavior-based theory. We have a reinforcement kasi when one is reinforcing a behavior, there will be a behavior. And then we have your Deci and Ryan self-determination theory using your internal and external motivational theory. And then we have your Bandura social learning or cognitive theory. We have your Lux goal setting theory and Corman self-esteem theory. If you have this kind of self-esteem, more likely you will going to behave, you will going to be successful as a leader. Now for your job design based theory, we have your Herzberg two-factor. Bakit siya naging job design? So when you say job design theory student, yung theory niya, pwede siyang gamitin in designing a job. So as we all know, Herzberg two-factor theory, may motivator siya kag may hygiene factor. So yung hygiene factor, more of external driven, more of the pay, the salary, while your hygiene factor is more of leading to growth. Okay, more of the esteem needs, more of like that ba? More of praise. So if you know the hygiene factor, more likely you are able to design a job. Okay, may salary o ano nga level, ano nga salary grade o may ara sang hygiene factor, ano pa yung kulang aside from salary. Benefits, di ba? So more likely, your Herzberg 2 factor will be under your job design based theory. Okay, so 28 na nag-answer very good kasi inanalyze gid. Umbrella theory yung ginapangita ha, wala kita ng specific theory. That's why here are your options. Next, involves rewarding the performance of a very boring task by allowing the employees to perform a less boring task. Okay, so the answer here is PRIMAC. In-explain ko na yan kanina. Yung PRIMAC principle, di ba? Now, your equity theory is a no-no here because we're not talking about salary. Okay, we are not talking about financial rewards. Diba? There are 4 methods. It's either you do PRIMAC, financial rewards, recognition, and travel. And then we have incentive plan for that. So we're not talking about rewards in here, na financial. So your equity theory, which is the application is salary plan, will not be applicable to this because this one is a theory in the first place. Theory in siya, hindi ni siya application. Next, yung industrial psychic shifting, inubra-ubra lang man yan. Wala man na sa book. Diba? Your in-basket technique naman, it is the term used by HRM to hire or promote employees, which assesses a candidate's ability to perform a manager's job from an admin perspective. So during the exercise in basket, the candidate is confronted with issues and problems that have accumulated in the manager's in basket after returning to work from an extended absence. In other terms, in basket technique, under yan sa mga simulation, under yan sa mga learning na chapter sa IO, wherein kung anong ginoobra sa manager, ginapatry obra sa next ng employee. It's either for promotion, it's either for hiring. That's in basket. So I think in basket it's not an option in here. But instead, this one is a PRIMAC principle. Okay? In basket, meaning for example, for paperworks, dumudamo sang paper sa basket, kinahanglan mo basahin ng memo. So ano imuhimuon para madasig mo mabasa ang memo? For example, if this is for your promotion or hiring, so isa-isahon mo siya or you do strategy. So that's an example of your in-basket technique. Okay? So let's go now to your next question. CBT company merges with THC company for the reason that they will soon fall to bankruptcy. Employees of CBT feel demotivated due to the change of authority figure, thus making them dysphoric and sad. Dysphoric and sad. So Mana, the head of the HRD, tried to initiate change with positivity because he believed in the concept of domino effect, which we're going to explain that if you are positive, meron sang emotional contagion, diba? More likely domino effect process. Now, in your leadership theory, we have Geyer, Downey, and Johnson's impact theory, in which each leader DAO has 6 behavioral styles that is effective only in one particular situation, which is called climate. So in this example, we need to identify the climate. Ano ang climate? Siyempre, despair kasi nga, dysphoric and sad. They are demotivated from the keyword dysphoric and sad. Therefore, the climate is despair. So, kung climate mo despair, anong iyasang behavioral style? Is it tactical? Always remember tactical. Ang iyasang climate is disorganization. There's no need to strategize in here because the climate is sad. Paano ka mag-strategize? So tactical is not a good option. Position. When you say position naman, it is equal to your legitimate power. Wala man di position, wala man di ginhambal nga may instability, di ba? Climate of instability. May fall to bankruptcy, which is unstable, but wala diya sang instability of the entire process ang ginhimo sa company. So therefore, possession is not required. Possession style, right? Next is affiliative. Wala man di anxiety, kay dysphoric man siya kagsad. So more likely, affiliative is not an option for your behavioral style. The best option here is magnetic kasi from the word positivity. HRD tried to initiate change with positivity. So for magnetic, they leads through energy and optimism. So therefore, ang climate is despair, the style needed or leadership style is magnetic. Naintindihan? Ano man na? Next, all are necessary traits and characteristics of a leader in an organization, which is more likely not the answer. Very good, kasi nga, 2% lang nag-answer. Okay, wait a minute. So, individual would be more likely to be successful leader if here are the things. So it's very straightforward sa book. Number 1, if they receive leadership training, if they are high self-monitors. So high self-monitor is not an option because our question here is which more likely not the answer. Okay? So high self-monitors are high in both task and person orientation. Okay, so C is part of your good leader or successful leader. Next, have leadership motive pattern. Wala man da sa motive pattern, di ba? Are intelligent, are emotionally stable, high in consensus and extroversion, o arada, and possess the skills and personality to be transformational leader. So your D, ubra-ubra ko lang man yan. Possess ability to organize and lead. Because tanan-tanan, maka-organize and lead. That's why this one is not a necessary trait. Kasi tanan naman, maka-lead. Kag maka-organize. It's either a simple leading for children to fall in line, a simple leading sa pag-start sang day in a prayer, or whatsoever na interpretation mo sa ability. But this one is very common to all. But for a successful leader, yung tatlo talaga is the best answer. But again, the question here is which is more likely not the answer. How you self-monitor? Not the answer, gani. No. Basi wala nyo nakita ng not. Next, Luck's goal setting theory is under what umbrella? Theory, luck. So kung mag-set ka sang goals, anong himo-himuon to reach that goals? Edi it's behavior-based. Diba? So 27. Next, this theory explains that leadership skills increases making a leader or manager effective when he or she interacts with people by meeting with them. By meeting with them. So pag maintindihan mo ng mga acronyms, MBO meaning management by objective. So it is a strategic approach to enhance the performance of an org. It is a process where goals of org are defined and conveyed by the management to the member. So one will going to set their goals kag i-convey siya through memo sa mga employee na okay, this is our objective. So management by objective, diba? So this one is not a correct answer. Next is organizational citizenship behavior or OCBs. It is when persons voluntary commitment may voluntary commitment ang isa katao within an org or company that's not part of their job description. So in this example, may OCB ba dire? Wala. Ang manager mismo nagpanaog, nagwa. Okay? So OCB is not a good answer. OBD is a field, diba? Organizational Behavior and Development. Look into the individual, the interaction between individual and groups, or org and the organization itself. At the same time, with devotion to expand the knowledge and effectiveness of how people accomplish successful organizational change and performance. So this one is field. Therefore, this one is not the correct answer. The answer is management by walking around or management by wandering around. May nag-answer pa, no answer. So wala ko diging butangan sang walking. Ang gibutan ko di meeting. Because pag gibutan ko di walking, ang answer in sige da, MBWA. Diba? So this is management by walking or wandering around. So far sa nag-answer sang 2%, just ko Lord, hindi sure. So nag-answer sang 29, very good because you're able to identify the concepts, the acronyms na typical ang ginagamit sa IO. Wait lang, manong tapos na ko? Okay, 3 slides na lang. Okay, Adam's equity theory is under what umbrella? Equity, okay, which application is pay salary or pay or salary plan? Cognitive based siya kasi equity, we have your input-output ratio. Equity yan. Cognitive based. Now, the next is this leadership program looks into the situation, does an assessment, and change it rather than focusing on the leader. So it based on the situation. Okay? So, in leader situation interaction, student, leader situation interaction, may apat kita, di ba? So number 1 is situational favorability. Number 2 is organizational culture. 3, subordinate ability. The last one is relationship with subordinate. Now, since we are talking about leadership program looks into the situation, more likely situational favorability. How the situation favor that kind of leader. So this one is under your leadership concept. Now, when we say situational favorability, leadership is result of experience, thus difficult to change. Result of experience, this result of the situation itself. Kaya siya naging leader. Now, we are using here Feidler's contingency model, which holds that an individual's leadership style is based on the situation itself. And how to measure the leadership style by using your least preferred coworker scale. Okay? Now, for the favorableness of the situation, it is based on the task structuredness. Kung ang task mo is structured already, if you favor ka na maging leader. Leader position power, it depends on your leadership position power depends on your position or which is equal to legitimate power and leader member relation kung gusto ka sang member. Otherwise, you will not going to emerge as leader. So in this example, the application or the program used is leader match. Kay diri, program siya to look into the situation. You do an assessment and you change the situation para mas favorable siya sa emerging leader. Okay, though it's difficult to change, but in leader match, we do that. So we are not focusing here in the leader, but we are focusing on the situation na maging favorable siya sa leader. Now, your situational favorability remodeling, obra-obra ko lang man yan. Yung situational contingency program, obra ko lang man yan. And then your organizational development using shifting situation technique, obra-obra lang na. So the best answer here is leader match. If you revisit your leadership concept, leader match ang ara dala ang nakasulat. Ang tatlo, wala ina dala nakasulat. Okay? So ang pinaka pinaka-familiar sa inyo, dira ka mo focus and you start to recall leader match, familiar and leader match. Di nga ni siya nga parts ng leadership concept. May ara bala sang situational contingency program. Siguro may ara situational favorability pero contingency. Or siguro may ara contingency model. Pero situational contingency program, very redundant kasi contingency based on situation. Okay? So leader match is the best option in here. Your PACQ, your position analysis questionnaire, again, using other job analysis method, so we have providing general information about worker activities. So your job competencies is a no-no. It's because we have other job analysis method based on competencies. Diba? We have your JCI and other stuff. Safety risks. Safety risks will be under your equipment, okay, or working condition. Now, the only option here is that we have mental processes and job context and processing info and incumbent performance. So I think this one is very mahumot sa inyo. That's why 47% ang answers ang A. But the correct answer here is mental processes and job context because, again, your PAQ is under a job analysis method providing general info about worker activities. We are not processing info in here. Wala diri input-output. Wala diri communication channel. That's why we cannot process info. But more likely, the sense here is knowledge. And knowledge is a mental process. And your knowledge is based on the context of the job. So therefore, maskin limited lang ng explanation sa PAQ sa book, but if you understand that if it is under your general info, the best answer is mental processes in job context. Okay? General info ha, meaning knowledge. So the best answer here is D. Next, the culture is characterized by everyone's believing that she is above the organization itself. That she is above the organization itself. She. Meaning, ang perspective sa tao. So therefore, the answer here is person culture. Di ba? Nag-gets siya akong point? In-explain ko na to kanina. Now, what is not a characteristic of a good leader? Characteristics of a good leader. Ang characteristic students ng good leader based sa book are my vision, my differentiation, my values, my transmission, or know how to communicate, and my flaws. Ang leader, my flaws. So which is not a characteristic potency. When you say potency, if you're going to understand it, what is potent? Or the concentrated thing. So is it related? Kailangan may other words, like potent skill. Diba? Kasi acceptable pa na. But potency itself, it's just a good choice to just trick you. So potency is the correct answer. Again, not a characteristic. Flaws is a characteristic kasi walang perfect na leader. Kaya we are trying to do our best because of our flaws. Diba? So 85%, wala ka mo nagbasa libro. Next is, in the midst of crisis, COVID-19 pandemic, crisis. So therefore, sa word pa lang, in iyasang climate is crisis. COVID-19 pandemic wherein reducing the workforce is necessary. So may layoff, di ba? Or downsizing. Taco, the head of HRD, uses reward to increase individual and group efficiency and performance because nga, na-reduce na ang workforce. So to motivate them amidst this pandemic, you reward. what type of leadership is suitable for this passage? Position is not suitable because referent lang siya sa position itself. Magnetic style, hindi man, wala man despair, wala man sadness. Tactical, there's no need to strategize. The best here is coercing. How will you going to coerce an individual? It's either you threaten, right? Or either you give money. To threaten. So it's more of negative ang coercion, pero you are using punishment, you are using rewards. So coercive style in a climate of crisis is effective in this passage. Next, which is not a major change to IO psychology in 1980 to 1990. Very specific. So the challenges here, students, is that based on book, number one, there is an increased usage of high-level statistical analysis and design, which is using of not only the parametric test but also making use of your Mankova, and then your least square regression line, your partial least square regression line, or regression, and then your other regression analysis. So mas grabe, sophisticated. So therefore, the question is not a major change. So this one is a major change. Next one is focusing on the work-life balance kasi sinabi dito, increase interest in the effect of work on family life and leisure activities. So therefore, more likely work-life balance to. Ginlain lang gidya ang choices. Next is application of process to industry. Application of cognitive psychology to industry. And when we say cognitive psych, it's more of the process in the brain. So this one is very difficult choices nga pilion kay because wala sang cognitive nga term but ang gigamit niya process. And the last here as a major change is the increase in the development methods to recruitment. So apat lang gid, it's either work-life balance, cognitive psychology, or processes to industry, and using statistics and different recruitment method. Now, the development of task and person-oriented team is more likely later na siya sa leadership period. Okay? Dito na siya sa leadership ba? If there is a leadership or leader performance, more likely the best leader should have a task and person orientation. But this one, look into the team, so this one is not a good option. So this should be your answer. So 7 lang gid ang nag-answer. Next, Shana wants to measure the need for power. Very straightforward need for power of every manager inside the company. As a psychometrician, what test will be applicable to use? You are just asked as a psychometrician. Hindi sinabi na as a psychometrician, what is needed or what test is needed or ano nga test ang imo gamiton. So gin-ask lang gid kamo ya. As a psychometrician, what will be your opinion? Simple as that. So need for power is DAT. Okay, your RPM and DAT is both intelligence test. RPM, more likely nonverbal. Your DAT, ay hindi gano'n intelligence because your DAT is aptitude. Okay, so they are both ability tests. Your RPM and DAT are both ability tests because your ability test consists of intelligence or mental ability, aptitude, and achievement. Okay? So delete na sila. Your 16PF and TAT can measure power, but 16PF, may ara kita sang dominance nga dimension, submissiveness to dominance. But do you think dominance, it means power? But how about the social boldness? Do you think social boldness is for power? May ara kita sang social boldness ka dimension. But how about, ano pa ganitong iba nga dimension sa 16PF? 16PF. May ara pa dito nga signify na dimensions ang power. So hindi lang gid siya dominance, may social boldness. I forgot the 16PF pero parang the power is divided into several dimensions depending on the specification of power. But if you want to measure straightforward na need for power, more likely the good option here is TAT. Now, balaan ko man, nga man 16PF ang inyong answer, kaya nakabutang psychometrician, hindi psychologist. Kasi psychologist is able to use TAT. But the question here is, as a psychometrician, what test will be applicable to use? Sige, pamangkot lang man kamo. Wala ka mo ginamba nga kung ikaw sa ikometrician, ano gidjay mo gamiton dire, hindi ka di man niya kagamit TAT unless you are supervised by the psychologist. So the best answer here is TAT. Very good for the 9 respondents who answer the TAT. Next is when you express your desire for recognition, 26 lang naka-answer sa inyo percent promotion and success. Again, recognition, promotion, and success, then you are probably referring to in the Maslow's hierarchy of need, physiological, security or safety, love and belongingness, esteem, and self-actualization. Now, esteem needs, another term for that is ego needs. So your self-actualization is not the answer, student, kasi growth na siya kag potential. Hindi na siya recognition, promotion. May nakabutang success, yes, but more likely, very potent here is recognition and promotion. So it's not a self-actualization need. Growth niya sa self-actualization need, ha? Hindi man siya social need. Hindi man siya security need. Kaya your social need is equal to your love and belongingness. The answer will be your ego need or your esteem needs. Okay? Is ego. Diba? If you are praised, ano manami siya diba sa ego? Ganda ko imodalunggan. So that's more likely esteem needs. Diba? So 10 respondents ang naka-answer. So hopefully naintindihan. The last will be this theory. Duwan na lang. This theory in leadership more likely look into the interaction between leaders and subordinate. Okay? Leader and subordinate. Again, may apat kita ka leader situation interaction in terms of leadership. Number 1, situational favorability. Okay? Di ba using impact, using Fiedler's contingency model. Ato may leader match ba? Next is organizational culture. Next is subordinate ability. Next is relationship with subordinates. And sa relationship with subordinates, look into the relationship of leaders and subordinate. One of the theory here is your leader-member exchange theory or LMX. Sir, walang LMX. Another term for your LMX is your vertical dyad linkage theory or your VDL by Danseru and colleague, which look into the interaction between leaders and subordinates. So therefore, your answer will be VDL. That's why you need to be familiarized with other terms aside from the original terms in the book. Otherwise, you cannot answer this one because this one is kind of technical. So 8 respondents ang naka-answer, pero very good. Ang ginahambal diri sa VDL, kung in group, mas mataas yung relationship or mas high quality yung leadership with the leader kasi nga in group kilalahanay, but if out group, mas low ang qualities ng relationship with leader. So your VDL or kilala sa subong LMX theory is the best answer in here. The last will be, which is not the best application of Hackman's and Oldham's job characteristic model. For Hackman's and Oldham's job characteristic model, which is under the umbrella of your job design-based theory, kasi yung model na yan, pwede natin gamitin on how to create a job, di ba? So we have here 5 core dimensions that lead to high intrinsic motivation, high job performance, high job satisfaction, and low turnover. So we have skill variety, we have your task identity, we have your task significance, we have your autonomy, and we have your feedback. Now, under your skill variety, we have your job enlargement. It means you are given more tasks to do to empower you or to motivate you. Job crafting, you're expanding the scope of your job. And then job enrichment, actually enrichment is a program which is you are given more responsibility over your tasks. So there will be autonomy in terms of decision making. And the last one is job rotation. Now, job rotation, enlargement, and crafting will lead you to growth. Job enrichment is a program. So therefore, your job enrichment, enlargement, and crafting is part of your skill variety under your Hackman and Oldham's job characteristic model, while your job expectation is in the other theory. Because in job expectation, you expect, so therefore, may ara kitang ginatawag nga realistic job review. So this will be under your Corman self-esteem theory. Naintindihan? So kinahanglan balaan mo gid ang theory, student. So I think I'm done. So my last note for you, for the assessment and abnormal, it's kind of technical. You just need to read books. 2 books for assessment, 2 books for abnormal, and then that's okay. And familiarize with the term. Kaming apat, when we take the psychometrician licensure exam, and syempre si Ms. Wong, psychologist, nagkuha siya, it's very technical. Kailangan alam mo yung term. Hindi pwede nga nagkuha ka ng exam without you knowing terms. Because terms are going to help you to differentiate one choices to another and at the same time understand the concept by reading the book, specifically kay IO. That's my bad habit sa review because I gin-take for granted ko si industrial psych because mahupos lang man siya sa review. Wala ta na ko nagbasa sang libro, which is book-based naman si IO. Kinanglan balaan mo lang ang terms. Now, pag abot sa board exam, ang pinaka-second to the lowest na kon is IO, sync bottom, gid siya. The last is your psych assessment, which is very mabudlagid man. Ang pinaka-highest ko is TOP, which is super, super taas, and abnormal psych. So you just need to read the book for IO. Okay, so books are already given to you. You can download that in the dashboard and stuff. So thank you very much. Hopefully naintindihan kung paano ko siya i-process ha. So intindihon ang question, i-maximize ang time, hindi magdali-dali. Okay? So I think that's it. Ma'am Nisen, I think I'm done.
Hello, am I audible sa inyo?
Yes.
Okay, sige, I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, so I will just maglagay lang ako ng notes later. So okay. So today I'm going to share like some questions that you find difficult. So yeah, so dami na kayong na-learn from our experiences. So starting from Ma'am Jane, so and then Ma'am Wong and Cesar Prince. So some study tips lang sa inyo, no? So if you remember, I don't know if you have encountered kay Bloom kasi wala naman tayong educational psych. But before sa educational psych namin na subject, like in Bloom's hierarchy of learning or hierarchy of studying. So meron siyang different na parang hierarchy, so pyramid. And the lowest na form of learning is just remembering. So remembering means, okay? So remembering means just recalling facts, basic concepts. So amo na sa akon dapat na-develop yun na nga skill sang ara pa lang kamo sang second year, first year, second year nyo nga level. Okay? So ang pag-memorize, 'di ba? Dapat na natutunan nyo na yan. And then, pag abot nyo third year, ang second niya, or sang hierarchy of learning ni Bloom is understanding, meaning you are able to explain the ideas and concepts already. Okay, so di ba mo na ang sa mga board exam subjects ninyo, ginahambal ko sa inyo, sige, read the book and also understand what is going on, what are the concepts, okay? And then, after understanding it, you need to apply it, diba? It means you need to use that information to new situations, diba? So, ang application is usually, kung mag-read ka mo sang book, ang application is usually for, like, mga examples. Those are applications already. But when you try to study, for example, ang mga TOP concept, why not apply it? Okay, apply it, for example, with the anime you're watching. Okay, try to look, for example, okay, ba't naging ganyan yung character na yan, diba? So, what is the motivations or what is the reason behind their behavior, diba? So, try to explain it using the theories, diba? That's already application. And then, the next step is analyzing. Okay, so it's drawing connections among ideas. Okay, so, when you draw connections, like, you try to look for patterns, diba? So, I think I already gave you, diba, do parang TOP reviewer na may mga na matrix, diba? So, di ba, you try to draw connections among ideas. So, ano bang common between kanila Freud, kanila Jung, ano ba yung concept of humanity nila, usually dyan sa analysis yan. So, like, ano bang differences nila, ano bang connection between kay Eric Fromm at saka sa humanistic nga side, di ba? So, you can actually find patterns when you are already analyzing. Okay, and then evaluate. So, justify a stand or decision. So, you try to appraise, argue, defend, judge. Okay, so, dire do you try to think critically okay, so you try to evaluate the terms, okay, the theory itself, and of course, ang pinakataas nga level is create, which is you try to produce original work. So, all of this, okay, so, nga hierarchy, so, if you notice, ang those teaching style ko, from the very basic na memorize lang and all, magkalabot kamo sa akon sa psych assessment, di ba, paubra ko na kamo, di ba, I apply Bloom's taxonomy of learning. But, just another study tip man sa inyo, kung, like, your teachers emphasize individual study, di ba? But if you're a type of person na gusto mo group study, so you can always do that, do group studies, no? But sometimes, ang group studies ninyo nagiging chika session na lang, di ba? Like, chika na lang kayo sa Google Meet. Hindi. If you plan your group study. And then, what I can give as a suggestion sa inyo is, why not try to teach your classmates something? Okay? So, like, na-learn ko na siya sa isa ka educator, well-known educator sa WVSU. So, hambal niya, ang first mag-learn ka bala, first is just reading. Okay? So, syempre, that's the basic. Then, you try to memorize it. Okay? Then, which is also basic lang, rote memory lang. And then, you try to meditate on it. So, related siya daan, abi sa do devotional man. When you do Bible studies and all. And then, after you meditate on it, diba, you apply what you have learned. And the highest form of learning, gani isambal niya, is you teach it to others. So, let's also apply what we have learned sa TOP na to, diba? Ang kay kanday Skinner, kanday, mga operant conditioning, diba? So, why not, for example, mag-group study ka mo, assign ka mo topic. Like, okay, ang weakest nyo, ang balaan nyo nga hindi nyo maintindihan. So, assign mo na siya sa self mo, be. And then, you try to verbalize it. You try to teach it to your classmate na nakabalo. So that para ma-master nyo, di ba? Para nyo somehow, ma-explain nyo maayo and at the same time, ma-apply nyo, diba? So, you do group collaboration. So, amo na nga akong suggestion if you want to do group study. As parang teaching session nyo din yan. So, don't just depend on our lectures because this is just passive learning. Gusto ko active learning ka mo. So, in your free time, assign din ka mo daily, for example, every Saturday, group study tayo every Saturday. O, ito yung topic nyo. Okay, try to explain that topic to us, okay, and then we'll try to ask questions, give you corrections, diba? Para at least you know na the different theories, sa IO din. So tandaan nyo, class, ha. So next week nito, absec na tayo and psych assessment. So you really need to squeeze in your time reviewing again your TOP and your IO. So wag yung kumbaga wag yung ibanji yung compare exam. So seryoso kami talaga. We're giving our 100% efforts to at least focus on your batch to review you. Okay, so focus na at least pagka-graduate ninyo, at least do confident man kami nga, okay, quality man ang amon nga graduates and they can pass nan the board exam. Okay? So, it's not we're investing everything sa inyo, no? So, So, please lang, don't. I hope our efforts are not wasted, man. Okay, so let's try to rationalize now your TOP and IO. So, let's begin. Okay, so, so first is, no question is, Boss proposed 5 personality factors that are evolved mechanisms. Okay? So, which of the following factors are not part of this? Okay? So, tandaan nyo lang, diba, it's kinda like the trait theory man ni Macri and Costa, okay, ang kay Boss, pero ang ginalain niya lang, instead of extraversion, gin-change niya siya into surgency or dominance. So, the correct answer is none of this. Okay? So, dominance is also part of the evolved mechanisms or personality traits niya because para kay Boss, dominance is a survival, it's used for survival, diba? We are urgency. So, we are able to, this is when we are able to connect with other people, make allies, okay? Because that is part of our survival. Okay? So, basta makita nyo ng evolved mechanisms, gana, okay, ano na sa kay Boss na siya. Okay? So, this one is from Bex. Joy is a pre-med college student who usually gets straight A's. She knows her GPA will be considered for admission to medical school, but she receives a D in chemistry class. She despairs that she will never achieve her dream of being a doctor. So, although, it's, do easy, basi, catastrophizing, kay do, ga-despair siya dayon to achieve her dreams of becoming a doctor. But, sa, nabing tricky, sa, a board exam, we need to choose the best answer. So, the correct answer is negative thoughts because, sa, kay theory ni Beck, diba? So, ang negative thoughts, go-obra siya dahil nga, automatic thoughts, okay? And, after that, ang automatic thoughts, that's what it becomes, nga doon naging abnormal na siya nga, then abnormal na siya nga thinking, irrational thinking na siya, and then it would lead to that cognitive triad balangan, negative view of ourselves, negative view of the world, and negative view of the future. Okay, so the correct answer is negative thoughts. Okay, so it's not catastrophizing. Although, gahambalin mo siya nga, ga-catastrophizing na siya. But the best term is negative thoughts. So, tricky, good man. Okay. So, which of the following are our primary motivation that is an evolved mechanism? Okay, evolved mechanism na naman. So, kay Buzz na naman to, diba? So, according kay Buzz, okay, the motivations naton and emotions. So, motivations and emotions helps us cope. Okay. So, mechanism siya, di ba? When we say mechanism, so that is somehow inherent sa aton that is used to adapt to the environment. Okay. Kung wala environment, wala sa mechanism. And kung wala man mechanism, hindi man kita maka-adapt sa aton nga environment. Kay interactionist ang perspective ni Buzz. So, the primary motivation and emotion ginaton is power and intimacy. That's so power, syempre, to survive, and intimacy, syempre, so, ang aton nga, mag-select kita sa partner, diba? So, intimacy also forms bonds man with other people. So, related siya sa survival. So, it's not intimacy and instinct. Okay? It's not also altruism and socialization, and also eros and thanatos. Okay? So, XX, okay? So, diri lang kamo confuse kung intimacy and instinct. Okay? So, it's power and intimacy. So, okay? So, I think this is very self-explanatory, no? Ara mo lang na siya sa akong nga slides. Diba? So, there's no other way but my way. So, these are feelers. Okay? It is an irrational belief. So, diba? Kung sa feelers, it is horrible, terrible, or catastrophic when things do not go the way you want them to go. Okay? So, ang grade conscious naman, so everything is graded, di ba? You see the worth of people as being graded lang siya. Okay? You can give yourself a global rating as a human, and your general worth and self-acceptance depends upon the goodness of your performance and the degree that people approve of you. So, hindi siya related, no? So, organizers naman, so they need to live inside a box. Okay, kailangan lang sa ilang naka-go lang about sa ilang plan. Okay? So, you must have a high degree of order or certainty to feel comfortable. So, you confuse the feelers sa organizers, no? So, ang kinalain sang organizers sa feelers is that they want order. Okay? They want, although very confusing, gid man siya nga daw, ang una nyo gid nga thought is, okay, base organizers ni siya, but it's actually feelers because it involves nga kailangan sa feelers. So, it's horrible, terrible, or catastrophic, okay, if they don't do it my way. So, passives naman niya. So, sa passive, so, sila yung pakya-sera-sera lang yung yung world nila or yung view nila ng life nila. So, you can achieve happiness by inertia. So, kung I won't work on it and I just be passive on how I live my life, I can enjoy it. So, like, para sila, live happiness to destiny. So, it's not correct. Okay? So, next is, we often seek partners that are appealing and attractive, such as physical attractiveness and intelligence, than others to produce offspring with those traits. So, the answer is sexual selection, not natural selection. In sexual selection, so, it is a process, okay, wherein we select kung sinong aton nga i-breed, okay, kung sinong partner ang aton nga i-select for us to produce quality offspring. So, amo nang sa theory ni boss. Okay? So, sa natural selection, it just simply tells us that certain traits, okay, that are for survival are being passed down to the next generation. So, kumbaga, this is very general ni siya nga meaning ang natural selection. So, mayo wala gid may nag-choose sang sana all may attractive partner kundi I will whoop you. Mayo wala ni may nag-select ha. So, and artificial selection. So, sa artificial selection, so this is for example, sa mga breeding ng dogs, okay, so you purposely choose that kind of breed in order to create another traits, okay, so very very overlapping ang terms, okay, very overlapping ang terms, okay? So you need to differentiate it. So, but more ang sexual selection, though very evident na siya sa human beings compared to artificial selection and natural selection. Okay? So, alright, thinking that a minor mistake in counseling may lead you to create a crisis that may result in psychological damage. What kind of irrational thinking is this? So, the correct answer is magnification or minimization. So, di ba sa magnification and minimization, so somehow do kinda the same gid sila ga-overlap man siya with catastrophizing. Okay, but sa magnification or minimization, di ba, a small mistake, you try to make it big. Gamay nga issue, ginapadako mo. Or, dako nga issue, ginapagamay mo. Doon mo na ang iya nga ilonggo nga explanation. Okay, so, like sa dere, minor mistake in counseling may lead to crisis. So, kung do like, nagsala ka lang give sang suggestion mo or like, sala ka lang give sang step, okay, para sa imo, you gina domino effect mo in a way nga ginapadako mo, sala gid ko at it will lead to my client's downfall, something like that. So, self-references, so more on I, okay, ako, I am not perfect, I am failure, okay. Ang excessive responsibility naman niya, so you try to give the burden to yourself. Like, for example, ang habal kung parents mo ba nag-separate at a young age and then you feel that ikaw ang responsible for them breaking up. So, doon mo na siya ang excessive responsibility. Magical thinking, so this is related to, of course, abnormal psychology. And then, kung in tangent, balang imo nga mga thoughts, magical thinking, bala, like, that, kung sa sa abnormal psych, sa personality disorders, ang schizotypal. So, muna, do like, they believe in, although may factor ang culture, like they believe in duendes, nga, kung do like very bizarre, very bizarre ang iyang mga thoughts nga do, hindi man logical. So, that's, magical thinking. Okay? So, next is, Filipino psychology na siya. Bashers are unwanted netizens because of their destructive criticism, often results in disunity and hinders cooperation among society. What weakness of Filipino character is exemplified in them? So, the answer is kanya-kanya syndrome or minding own business. So, because sa kapwa theory, diba, we believe that we are part of others. We try to group ourselves as, diba, kami, sila, daw muna siya. But, of course, though, very, very automatic na lang dahil nga, okay, lack of self-analysis na siya. kay mga bashers sila, no? So, another more explanation. So, for it, wait lang. So, this attribute, ang kanya-kanya syndrome, this attribute is related to the so-called crab mentality, referring to those tendency of crabs in a basket to pull each other down. Filipinos have the propensity to put others down through gossips and destructive criticisms, resulting in disunity and hindering group cooperation. So that's why the answer is kanya-kanya syndrome. Okay? It's not the lack of self-analysis. So at least 25% of you got it correctly, but most of you did not. So, shoulds. Okay, so, Ari, kay di ba may ara man kay Horneye nga tyranny of the shoulds, di ba? Pero kay Ellis may ara man siya shoulds nga meaning. Okay, so ara na siya sa book niyo sa kay Gerard Corey. Okay, so, shoulds is a irrational belief and it's not a demand of society. So maybe you're referring this to kay Karen Horneye nga psychoanalytic social theory. So it's not. So it's an irrational belief. Tandaan nyo ha, and also neurotic self-thought. Do base nabi nyo, ano siya related siya kay Karen Horneye. No, it's not. So shoulds are, according kay Ellis, these are mga irrational beliefs naton. Okay, so very easy manitani. Kaya nakita nyo na Ellis, diba? So, basta na-confused lang kamo. So, so in an assessment session, the therapist gives his client a role title list and asks him to designate people who fit the role titles by writing their names on a card. Which among the following techniques is employed by the therapist? So, it's a technique. Okay, so kung technique na siya, if you remember your counseling and psychotherapy, okay, so kung technique na siya, but it's a specific step. Okay, it's not the general therapy itself. Okay, so di ba ang therapy naton may mga different techniques, okay, may mga different methodologies, so dapat amo nang isulod sa utok nyo. Okay, kung techniques na siya, but it's part of a certain therapy. So, ang fixed role therapy, okay, that's the general concept. Okay, that's the general therapy based on Kelly's theory. And so, kung technique na siya, meaning method or step. So, it's called the rep test. Okay, so, rep test. Additional info. Okay, so additional info on the rep test. So, in Kelly's view, the first step of therapy is for therapists to develop an understanding of how the client construes the world. One way to gain this information is the use of role construct repertory tests, or rep test for short. The purpose of rep test is to discover ways in which people construe different significant peoples in their life. Okay, so amo na ang sa rep test. Okay, so again, kung therapy siya, meaning it's general na siya. Okay, kung technique, meaning it's a specific step in a therapy. So, I.O. Okay, so I.O. So, if you notice, I also included assessment questions in I.O. Kay part man siya based sa selection, recruitment selection. So, I study tape. Ang assessment, ang sa tatlo nga subjects, may assessment questions kinada. Okay, so when you study for your IO, also think of assessment. When you study your TOP, also think of the assessment kay may mga questions about mga certain tests bala na in which theory they're based on. So, ginaya. And IO, also think of tests, assessment gyapon. So, you see, ga-overlapping gid ya ang pagtuon. So, it's better that you have that in mind man also. Okay, so, IO, a person who describes himself as adventurous and ambitious, domineering, self-confident, sociable, and talkative would likely to fall on what Holland's identified interest type. So, ang automatic nyo, syempre, ka nakita nyo, uy, sociable, di ba? Uy, talkative, uy, social, meaning social, di ba? Automatic, di ba? So, dapat, hindi ka mo sometimes, di ba, like, may hara kita nga saying, kung kesa kung ang anong instinct, nga tsakto, amo nang gina-first, nga ginabutang. Pero kung kisa, do tamaan, nakita ga automatic thinking na lang bala, ay, nakita ko sociable, sige, social na sa. So, sometimes we need to pause and think critically. Okay, what does this question really mean? Okay, so, may adventurous, may ambitious, domineering, di ba? So, it's not, you only narrowed lang gid, nag-tunnel vision na kamo sa sociable, wala nyo na consider ang other questions, no? So, so, more info on that. Okay, so, letter B. Okay, so, naagal enterprising ang answer. So, Holland is known for his basic model of vocational interest, which proposes 6 interest types: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. Enterprising individuals are described as acquisitive, adventurous, agreeable, ambitious, domineering, energetic, exhibitionistic, excitement-seeking, extroverted, flirtatious, optimistic, self-confident, sociable, and talkative. So, pagid sa title natin i-differentiate ang kay Holland, no? So, when we say naman investigative, di ba, more on ideas sila. So, these are people who like to observe, learn, investigate, analyze, evaluate, or solve problems, primarily of scientific or mathematical nature. So, they prefer working on ideas as opposed to people. They do not like highly structured settings. So, how about naman ang social? So, para ma-differentiate natin ang enterprising sa social. So, when you say social, they want to work with people to inform, enlighten, to help, to train, to cure, okay, to help lift them up to their potential. They prefer solving problems to discussion and usually do not prefer to work with things. So, sa enterprising naman, people who like to work are more on influencing, diba? So, anong mga traits di nga all about influencing, diri how? So, they also more about persuading, leading, managing them for economic gain or for goals of an organization, enjoy leadership positions, and dislikes details. Okay, so for artistic naman, so people who have artistic or innovating, intuitional abilities, and like to work with unstructured situations, using creativity or imagination, or prefer working with self-expressive ideas. So if you notice the traits here, diba? Hindi siya more on the social side, it's more on the enterprising side because may self-confident, diba? What do you need the self-confident trait for, diba? To influence people, diba? So, same man with domineering nga trait. Okay, so don't just tunnel vision on a certain certain term. Okay, try to pause and think kung ano gid man ang correct answer. So, Ari, again, may mga assessment questions, and I think this is also part sa selection process. Bala, I also discussed this briefly sa inyo. So, it is the degree to which an actual criteria and conceptual criteria coincide. Okay, it's called criterion relevance. Okay, so because when we do testing, okay, so may mga things kita nga ang conceptual criteria amo nang do ideal criteria naton for selection. For example, anong mga traits ng mga workers na kailangan present in a certain candidate, and ang actual criteria is of course what is actually there sa aton nga characteristics that are actually there sa aton nga candidate. So it's criterion relevance. When we say criterion deficiency, busilingon amo ning aspects sang test naton nga wala naton na measure. So criterion deficiency. Kung criterion contamination naman siya, busilingon ang criterion naton, there are certain aspects ng aton criterion that is not relevant to the job description or to the test that we included. Okay? And criterion overlap, though criterion overlap, it's kind of the same sa criterion relevance. Okay? But it simply, ang criterion overlap simply means that what are those traits that are overlapping in both actual and conceptual criteria. Okay? So, kung i-Venn diagram ko siya, okay, ang criterion overlap, amo na ang sa tunga-tunga sang actual criteria kag sang conceptual criteria. So, recruitment is one of the important goals in human resource management. Which of the following are goals of the recruitment process? Except, okay? So, of course, goal gin naton nga to keep the recruitment cost low, okay? Ang balaton gasto, it's gasto gin man. Magasto ang recruitment, pero it's also one of the goals na as much as possible if we can select the best candidate, okay, for kagbatay naton sila dayon. So keeping the recruitment costs low. So encourage applicants who are well qualified is also part of the goals. Choose appropriate method is also part of the goals. But to generate the largest pool of applicants, it's not good a priority, okay? Because in recruitment gani, we're trying to screen and select applicants, okay? So it's not good the goals of recruitment. So na-confuse guro ka mo. Okay, so the existence of discrimination is determined by, so this is part of job satisfaction. So it's not just the appearance of fairness in employment practices. It is the result of employment practices. So it is the process mismo. Okay, how do we do about the recruitment process? Is there, kung sa process mismo may sort of discrimination na siya. So, it's already discrimination. So, like, for example, when you screen applicants, tapos, yung screen mo siya based on, kay may bias ka sa iya nga gender identity or sa iya nga sexual preference. So, that's already sa process niya mismo. Okay? So, it's not just the appearance of fairness. It's not just the appearance of it. So, very shallow lang niya siya. So, it's the result, okay, of how we do the process, the employment practices. Okay? So, next is when a person perceives himself as deriving fewer outcomes from a job than others, it is called, correction lang niya, it's called underpayment inequity. Bunan ang iyang nga term. Okay? So, it's underpayment inequity. So, anong iyang description. Okay, wait lang yun. So, it's underpayment inequity. So, it's not overpayment. It's more on the equity theory wherein, diba, dapat ang certain nga benefits, okay, should be equally distributed to those who are in mas need niya. Okay, so when a person perceives himself as deriving fewer outcomes from a job than others, it is called underpayment equity. So amo ning feeling niya nga for example, damo siya yung workload pero ang iya nga pay is lower than those nga gamay lang ang workload pero dako pa iya pay. Okay, so do na confuse lang kamo di pero tawag mo it's underpayment equity, not underpayment inequity. Okay. So, in Adams' equity theory, education, intelligence, experience, skills, and superiority are all examples of inputs. Okay, so these are what we kung anong ara sa aton. Okay, what we gained from our experiences. Okay, ang outputs is of course ano ang aton nga productivity, something like that. Okay, so that's inputs. So are tawagin ko diya nga question, no? So like, okay, which of the following examples of self-report personality test accept? Okay, so tawagin ko sa mga nag-answer sang mga sang Kirsky, sa Myers-Briggs ko siya. Like, ambal ko, my gosh, ara na di ganun sa TOP pa eh. Tapos, ginambal ko pa ni sa inyo nga, kwaon yun ni. Diba? Gina-share nyo man sa social media, diba? So, like, Myers-Briggs type indicator is a self-report personality test. It's a personality test. This is based on Jung's theory, diba? So, ang Edwards personal preference schedule, this is also a self-report personality test. This is based on Henry Murray's theory. Okay? So, ang Kirsky, same man with the Myers-Briggs type indicator. This is also part of Jung's theory. So, self-directed search. So, this is the RASEC naton nga test. So, although it is somehow daw personality test, but it's more of an interest test than a personality test because you are looking into what types of jobs are they interested in. So, the self-directed search, this is not a self-report personality test. This is an interest test. So, kung sino man ang nag-answer, okay, ang 10, 12, kag 11 respondents nga na, ha? Okay, so I hope you learn your lesson that MBTI is not a is a personality test. Okay? So, so it is fairness by means, which means are used to achieve results in an organization. So the answer is procedural justice. Okay, so additional info. So it is procedural justice. It is the idea of fairness in the process that to resolve disputes and allocate resources. So, ang distributive justice is more on how the justice is being distributed or ang appearance of of justice na da. So, amo na siya ang distributive justice. Like for example, ang imo pay, how does it appear to be equitable, something like that. So, confused lang kamo gamay. So, one approach to managing diverse workforce is to ignore cultural differences. This color-blind perspective is called. So, when kidaan sa modern day nga IO practices subong. So, especially in countries na multicultural. Okay, so do like multiculturalism ang do una dayon nga answer, di ba? Pero sa multiculturalism actually they are actually aware of the cultural differences and you need to adapt to their culture. Do amo nang ilang na do philosophy, do kailangan maging aware ka rin sa culture nila and somehow in consideration of that person. Pero sa color when you ignore cultural differences, para sa ilang ang culture is just simply kumbaga kung colorblind siya kay do para sila siguro ang ilang philosophy is like race is subjective. Okay, so race is not actually based on objective reality na based on skin color or something like that. So that's why they ignore the cultural differences. So that's why it's called a melting pot conception. Okay, so this is very tricky question, but I hope you learn something that it's not multiculturalism. By some multiculturalism, you are actually considering the culture of the person. Okay, so you're actually making employee practices that are in consideration also with the culture of the person. So, part man da sang culture is of course ang identity kagang values sang imo nga employees. And lastly, okay, so assessment question na naman, it's related. So, a typing test was administered to 20 data entry clerks at a particular organization. There was a strong correlation between their scores on a typing test and their performance as data entry clerks. This type of correlational analysis refers to most specifically to establishing what category of validity. So, sometimes we duga automatic kita or gamag kita basic concurrent validity ang tsakto nga sabat. So, it's not. Although concurrent validity is part of criterion validity, but we are looking as what category of validity this is. So, ang categories of validity are content, criterion, and construct. So, ang face validity is, although ang ibang gambal, it's also a type of validity or category of validity, but it's some authors also tell you nga hindi siya part of categories. So, but tanan na lang tatlo kasi content. Ang pinaka-lowest is content. Second is criterion because we are sa criterion may ara kita criteria, okay, or may ara kita standard na ginatanaw. So, ang standard na day is the performance of the data entry clerks. Ang mga criteria naton. Okay, and ang construct is based on for example, a theory or a definition, technical definition of a certain construct, okay? Or, diba, construct is a mental synthesis nga ma-observe naton sa, indirectly observe naton through behavioral explanations or behavioral observations, okay? So, ayan, that's it. That's all for this presentation. So, I hope that sa aton nga run through or rationalization nga portion, I hope you have learned a lot gid dere. So, ano pa ba? Ano pang any announcements, Sir Prince Mamuang? So next week we will start na on the abnormal psychology na portion. So I'll publish the sa morning psych assessment, sa hapon ang abnormal psych. So sa psych assessment ginamalan ko na kamo, it's very technical. So matigid kamo maayo sa teachers. So it's best that you need to read ahead, okay, para pag-abot sa review, refresher na lang siya. Okay, so, amo lang ng mambal kung mga study tips sa inyo. Okay, gahatag na kami tips sa inyo, suggestions, but it all still boils down to your individual performance, okay? So, kung ako mo sa mga techniques pagid sa group study, di ba? So, kung gusto niyo mag-online group study, basta as long as planned siya and may aragid ka mo agenda, why not? Okay? So, also, encouragement ko, although I know we teachers are not perfect and sometimes wala na gid kami time to make item banks sa inyo for you to practice. Okay? So, I encourage you if you can find some question books bala ang do mga practice questions ng mga books sa psychometricians. Okay, if you can find or you can buy that, may ara man siguro sa Shopee or sa mga sa FB, sa mga stores na, sa mga review center. Why not you try to purchase that and try to practice answering the questions, okay? So that you can have an idea really of what it feels like sa exam. Okay, so that's my also another study tip. So hindi lang basa sa libro, practice answering. Okay? Strategy. So give yourself time. Like I know ang iban sa inyo overwhelmed pa sa OJT, but the key here is time management really. So bisan 1 hour or 2 hours lang of studying, okay? Dedicate that part. Okay? So after nyo OJT, pahuway ka mo that 1 hour. So after 1 hour, tuon ka mo. Okay? So, I know ang iban si may research pa, pero you need to squeeze that in. Okay? So, Ma'am Wong, Sir Douglas, Sir Prince, may any more?
For the psych assessment, it will be challenging, sabi ni Miss Nisin, nga technical siya, so we are not going to talk about testing and assessment and looking into several tests and dimensions and whatsoever, but we will going to run through statistics and research methods as well as your laws, RA 10029 and 11036 plus your APA and PAP code of ethics. So it's a combination of different aspects. And for your abnormal psychology, it is also technical subject. So reading the DSM at the same time, Barlow and Duran book, we're going to give you insight of what the disorders are, and hopefully we can finish all the disorder from the start until the end disorder na makita sa DSM. For the practice exercises, you can do the Quizlet or mag-ubra-ubra ka mo sang quiz bala. So in every chapter na i-discuss sa ng a day, kasi na nga week, hopefully maka-advance study ka mo para ma-affirm na lang ang knowledge yung ginahamba na mo. At the same time, you try to create your Quizlet so that you can practice. Self-help strategy is very important in here, or either team or group strategy. At the end of the day, you're going to have your mock board to test your knowledge, but your pre-board will going to determine your scores or your grade in your comprehensive exam. And hopefully, you will going to pass the comprehensive, the pre-board. Okay? So I think that's the end. Hopefully you read the book. That's all. Start to read the book because next meeting it's gonna be a lot. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Diba, Prince, sa psych assessment, we will not teach them na how to solve, no?
We will not going to teach you how to solve because in psych assessment usually ang mga estudyante gadala calculator because we thought that may solving, but the solving is kind of self-explanatory. It's common sense. More of the, for example, distribution in the bell shape bala, mga 24 points.
So dapat balaan nyo na ang principles na nga daan,
yeah.
Diba?
So madasig lang siya kung need to solve. Ang importante, balaan niya ang concept naman, muni ang iya pag-solve, naman muni ang number sa discrimination index, muni ang difficulty index, whatsoever. Muna lang, importante na intindihan mo.
Imagine nyo na lang do research defense, di ba? Defend yung results na muni sa mga quantity, bala. So, dapat naintindihan nyo kung, like, for example, ano ang t-test para sa di na ginagamit. Okay, so, amo na.
And hopefully, they have the collection of their field methods and quantity research such as your experimental and your other quantity, ha? Because it will be part of your testing and assessment. Hindi madula din sa research, kasi statistics.
May test development pa dahil na.
Because it's part of the test development. When you're doing test development or test construction, you're doing research. It's not as simple as you're doing pilot testing or whatsoever. You're doing research. So I think that's it, Miss. I think we're going to dismiss them.
Yeah. Any more concerns or questions before we go?
If wala naman, again to remind you, please restudy your industrial psych and theories of personality because we will going to give your pre-board at the end after your mock board for your abnormal and psych assessment. It will be 1 week, so mahatag kami mock board, diba? After naman matapos ang topic for abnormal and psych assessment, I will going to give you a mock board. So hopefully nakatuon na kamo sa duwa, and then after a week, we're going to give you the pre-board so that we can submit on the grades for those who are vying for honors and for those who are vying to graduate this semester. Okay, so hopefully makastudy na kamo ha. I think that's it,
Wala
miss.
na Bungie. Okay, so wala na serious studying na gini. Okay, so I hope that wala na wala na speed running, and don't take this opportunity for granted, kid. Okay, so thank you, kid, for coming, class. So see you again next Wednesday. We will start now with our abnormal psych and with our psych assessment. Okay, so bye everyone.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.